Come, daughter, come. Pray, daughter, pray. Remember who you are and whose you are. Come, daughter, come, born from the stars, heavenly body, holy, holy, ancient one, from the one. Remember who you are and whose you are. Return to the earth what belongs to her. Cry no more. Surrender all. Suffer no more. Suffer no more. Lay down your burdens by the riverside. Let your soul be renewed and be baptized. Indikolela iko sasa, ingiko lako lengi langa. Utondo luya buza, ndikolela. Iko sasa, ingiko lako lengi langa. Utondo luya buza. Lay down your burden by the riverside. Let your soul be renewed. Be baptized. And you can cry. You can let go. You can cry. You can let go. Dance, daughter, dance. Born from the stars. Heavenly body. Holy, holy. Ancient one. From the one. Remember who you are and who you are. Indikolela iko sasa, ingikola kilingilanga, utondo luyo buza, indikolela, let go, free up, let go, free up, let go, free up, let go, free up, let go, 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 dance, daughter, dance, let go, free up, let go, praise, daughter, praise, let go, come, daughter, dance, daughter, dance, dance, daughter, dance, daughter, dance, daughter, praise, daughter, praise, dance, daughter, dance.
Hello, everyone. Happy National Black Mental Health Providers Day. I'm Tracie Jade, Executive Director of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, here to welcome you to Can We Talk, the Joy Awards. This is a day that has been cemented on the calendar from here on out to honor you. All of you, from counselors to psychologists and nurse practitioners, teachers and advocates. We see you. Thank you for the hard work you've been doing over the years to serve our community, to bring healing and hope in the midst of several pandemics, all while sacrificing your own joy. We appreciate you and we see you. Joy is our birthright. The world would have us believe differently. I mean, look around. Our pain is in front and center on full display. But today, we are turning the page. Not to forget our past, but to honor our ancestors by choosing a future of joy. We love you, we appreciate you, and we celebrate you. Enjoy the evening.
Good evening. At this time, it is our extreme pleasure to present to you the host of this evening's Can We Talk Symposium and Joy Awards for 2022, Dr. Spirit. Spirit's specialties include race relations and social justice, parenting and family issues, relationship intimacy, and she is a constant educator for the public on mental health and wellness in a way that is informative, engaging, and easy to understand. She is also the hit host of OWN's unscripted series, Love Goals. Dr. Spirit, over to you.
Welcome to the inaugural celebration of the new, officially proclaimed National Black Mental Health Professionals Day. We made it, y'all. Every year beginning today, June 4th, will be perpetually a day of recognition, honoring all of the dedicated mental health professionals that help light the path to joy in the Black community. We also recognize that healing may come to us in a variety of different forms, from meditation or yoga, or perhaps you even heard a good word on social media from an advocate. Today, we are celebrating our collective lift to joy, however we get there. Today, we proclaim joy over everything. The Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation was founded in 2018 by Dr. Taraji P. Henson from my illustrious Howard University family, HU, you know, to eradicate the stigma around mental health in the Black community. Here's a little information about the work and the impact of the organization this far. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Tracie Jade, Executive Director of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, founded by actress, activist, director, and producer Taraji P. Henson.
Our vision is to eradicate the stigma around mental health in the Black community by breaking the silence and breaking a cycle of shame.
If we can talk about it in schools, if we can make it a class like we have math and we have science, I think we can put a dent in those numbers right away.
This is something my father, when he died, but he left me with this. He would always tell me to get from around those who have my problems and get around those who have the solution.
We offer year-round free therapy, scholarships to aspiring mental health providers, mental health support in urban school districts, cultural competency training and support for returning citizens, and we certainly use our voice towards advocating for access to mental health resources in communities of color.
So I'm here to appeal to you because this is a national crisis. I'm here using my celebrity to put a face to this.
The strength is in vulnerability. The strength is in saying, I'm not okay today. That's the strength.
I want people to know that it is okay to seek help for mental health. There is nothing wrong with it.
From who we collaborate with to how we show up in the community with content and programs, we want to help every individual find their pathway to peace. We choose joy over everything.
Black mental health professionals are our unsung heroes, going above and beyond the call of duty in unprecedented times. Our advocates are calling attention to the cause, educating, empowering, and bringing information to the public using their platforms. And our integrated health and wellness champions are changing the game in alternative wellness modalities. From more than 500 submissions, these finalists were selected by a panel of esteemed professionals, board members, and clinicians. Presenting the 100 finalists for the 2022 Joy Awards. Each of these very special winners will be receiving special gifts provided by our sponsors. Thank you for your service and congratulations.
Hey, it's Tyler Perry wishing all the Black therapists out there on this Black Mental Health Day all the best. I wish you joy. Thanks for the healing and all the things you're doing for so many of us. We need it. God bless you. Keep going. Keep the work up. You are changing the world.
Hey, everybody. It is Black Mental Health Professionals Day, and I want to send a heartfelt thank you for all that you do to protect our mental health, especially given what's happened in the past week. I'd like to celebrate you, and I'd like to encourage people to seek out your professional help. God bless.
Thank you to our celebrity supporters for the shout outs. We appreciate you too. And a huge, huge congratulations to our top 100 finalists. Stay tuned for the announcement of our 10 Joy Award recipients. You don't want to miss that. Now it's an honor to introduce our esteemed panelists for our women's session, Guardians of the Sun. Moderated by Boris L. Henson Foundation's Executive Director, Tracie Jade. We welcome Dr. Kyaien Connor, Associate Professor in the Department of Mental Health, Law, and Policy at the University of South Florida, Dr. Anita Phillips, trauma therapist and host of In the Light podcast, and Elisha S. Rhodes, Chief Operating Officer for the YWCA USA. This panel is sponsored by Kate Spade New York. Their social impact efforts acknowledge that while joy colors life, life can also be complicated and complex. With their social impact work, they aim to address a truer, fuller spectrum of a woman's joy by putting mental health at the heart of women's empowerment. Amen. Kate Spade is a valued partner of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation.
Welcome, Guardians of the Sun, and thank you for all of the work that you do in our community. We really, really appreciate you, and I'm so excited for this conversation. So let's jump right in. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask, and we'll chat through a little bit. The first one, as women of color, so often we struggle to keep up with ourselves out here in the world while caring so deeply for everybody else. We have historically been caretakers, guardians of the sun, to speak, protecting our families and our communities while sacrificing, well, everything, right? You all know what I'm talking about. It's an enormous responsibility. We have an ingrained need to nurture. We do all the things since way back in history. How do we put ourselves first and keep doing all the wonderful work that we're doing in the community? And I guess I can start with you, Dr. Phillips.
You know, it's an excellent question because I think every Black woman, many women can identify with that. I want to do kind of a quick imaginary exercise to offer some advice. Imagine 10 women standing in a circle and each one has a gift. They have light in their hands. They have a gift to give. They walk across the circle and put their gift at the feet of another woman until every woman has given her gift. All the gifts are now on the floor at the feet of each woman. We must bend down to pick it up. Very often, we are not ready to receive all the things. How can everyone always be giving and no one's ever getting? Think about that. What is going on? If everyone's always giving everything they have to other people, when are we going to be other people? And so be careful not to leave the gifts that others are offering you at your feet and not pick them up and have them in your hand. We can miss the offers of help because they won't do it as fast as we will. They won't do it as good as we will. Or we've just gone deaf to offers of help and then people stop offering. And so in all this giving, there's got to be some getting.
Yes.
So
Amen.
commit to giving all the things and getting all the things.
Yes. Pause, receive, and then move on.
Yes.
Same question to you, Elisha. What would you say to that?
Thanks for having me, and I receive what Dr. Phillips just gave as a really great tool and a way to move forward as we think about how to put ourselves first. So I will definitely be receiving that piece of advice and trying to lean into it as I move forward. You know, I think about one of Audre Lorde's quotes around caring for yourself is not self-indulgent. it is self-preservation. And I constantly have to remind myself that putting my needs first is not selfish. It is self-preservation. And I think as Black women, we've gotten to this space where we've just accepted the given, as Dr. Phillips just mentioned, so much that we now think that if we self-indulge and put ourselves first is radical, and not just the thing that we should be doing to preserve ourselves, or to be just best for ourselves, our families, etc. So I think for me, moving through this moment in time, just really accepting that I can't do everything, right? I can't be everything to everyone was the real first pivot in really figuring out how to be there for myself, accepting it, acknowledging it, and being okay with it. Right? Yeah. That there are priorities, and then there are things that are nice. There are things that I would like to do, right? But figuring out what is a need versus what is a nice thing to do, and being okay saying no. Right? Woo, being okay saying no without the guilt, without the shame, and then making sure that as I say no, I have people around me that are supportive of my boundaries and don't shame me further for my boundaries. So I think I would just say accepting that I can't be everything to everyone. And I need to be able to say no and be comfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so 100% there with you. And I just moved into that space myself over the last couple of years, where I began to keep an energy bank. And in that energy bank, I split that time up every day. And it starts with, how am I feeling today? How much energy do I start with in that bank? And then how will I disperse that throughout the day? How much time am I going to spend with family? How much time am I going to give to work and community? How much time am I going to give to my own self-care? And then how much time am I going to give to bull crap? And that has the lowest percentage. Right? Because we know what BS looks like when we see it. And I guess I would ask the same of you, Ms. Kyaien. What would you say to this? How do you manage and keep moving and giving, but also taking care of yourself in the process?
Yeah, I really appreciate all the things that my co-panelists have said. As Black women, we instinctively and intuitively take on so many roles, right? We're the nurturers, the caregivers, the educators, the advisors, the advocates for our children, our loved ones, and communities. And for many of us, we're also the professionals and the breadwinners in our homes. But this too comes with enormous responsibility and stress. And despite our successes, we still earn less than men for the same positions. And often in professional spaces, we feel like we have to work harder, be more prepared, be more available, and constantly prove ourselves, our value and our worth, while simultaneously going home and taking care of all of the things. Many of us have role models, memories of our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties working multiple jobs, barely resting, and still doing everything for us and for their communities. I think it's really important that we sit with the fact that many of these images that we grew up with were not always healthy ones. The rhetoric about being a strong Black woman and the narrative about being able to do everything and be everything to everybody is not healthy. They may not have talked to us about it directly, but our mothers, our grandmothers were stressed. Many of us are stressed, and this kind of persistence is incredibly detrimental. It is not a figment of our imagination. This is a real thing that can have real effects on our mental and physical health and overall emotional well-being. Just to piggyback off my panelist comments, it is not a sign of weakness to care for yourself. Caring for yourself is not selfish. In fact, caring for yourself and finding ways to manage your own stress is exactly what we need to stay healthy, so we can continue to do the work, that important work that is necessary for our lives and our goals, our visions. So sometimes I have to remind myself of that. I am not Superwoman. I'm not superhuman. I am a human. And I cannot do all the things for others unless I make sure I'm taking care of myself first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we sometimes pick up all of those pieces and put it on ourselves. No one even has to ask us to stand into these leadership roles of pushing a movement forward, or, saving our people, or holding up our families, or whatever we're doing. We choose this. And I think about, we're coming through the pandemic, right? Somewhat. But we all know as Black women that we've had to manage a lot through this process, triple pandemics, possibly more. And we stand in these spaces of advocates as leaders, be it the community, the church, mental health, wherever we're needed. We've stood in those spaces. And I'm not taking anything away from the men, but I'm just giving acknowledgement and appreciation for us as women who naturally step into those spaces, right? But again, neglecting to take care of ourselves through the process. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your roles as leaders in the community. And I'll start with you, Elisha, if I may. Elisha, who's the COO of YWCA. You're a leader of a national-based, community-based organization, which is focused on eliminating racism and to empower women and girls. How did it feel to be tasked with changing spaces, transforming culture, and making serious decisions despite limitations in funding, closing centers if you had to, or a change of workforce through the pandemic? I would love to know how this weight of leadership affected and still affects your mental health.
Yeah, that's a big question, right?
I know.
And I will be completely honest to say it did not feel good, and it still doesn't feel good. I remember before the pandemic, I probably was in therapy maybe once every 2 weeks. And that was my schedule. And then the pandemic hit, and then it was like, oh no, I need weekly support. And then sometimes multiple times a week, because it continues to be a very hard burden. But I caveat that with, is my burden greater than the community members that we serve that don't necessarily have the privilege that I do sometimes to even go to therapy because it's not normalized as yet in their communities. So I always try to balance what I consider my burden or my struggles with a kind of trying to figure out, like, is it that my burden is greater, or is it that we all carry a significant amount of burdens and responsibilities as Black women because we operate in systems that just weren't created to support us? I think for me, leaning into leadership at this moment in time really has been about, how do I get the support that I need? How do I recognize that I can't do it all? Right. And how do I recognize that I'm going to fail sometimes? Yeah. Right. And failure in that moment is not a complete failure. Right. How do I recognize and lean into, I am in it for progress and not perfection? Right? And really figuring out what are the tools and who are the folks that I need to keep around me to make sure that my mental health remains stable. And I think first and foremost, I needed to be honest with myself. I'm not Superwoman, as my co-panelist said. I am not a Superwoman. I think I lived for many years trying to be that Superwoman, trying to live perfectly, right? Burning the midnight oil. And I think COVID really allowed me in my leadership growth to kind of sit back and say, I'm not perfect. Right. And I don't want to be a part of a communities or a system that requires me to be perfect. I want to be a part of a community and my work community and serving the women that I actively participate in, to understand that we're all in this together. Right. And our burden, as much as I lead, I am not far away from the communities that we serve. Right. As I think about how my journey started, I told my team earlier this week, I am a stone throw away from being that girl in Brooklyn, unsafe. Right? No protection, vulnerable. I am not that far removed. So always remembering to be an active member in the community that we serve and that I serve has been a way to make sure that I'm surrounded by the right people, and that I'm putting my mental health first by not shying away from when I need support, and being able to say to the people around me, I'm not okay today. Right? Don't expect perfection. I'm not okay today. I need to step back. I love and appreciate you, but I can't be everything for you.
I love what you're saying, Elisha, about being a part of the community that we serve, and understanding that we too are walking with those same burdens that our neighbors are walking around with. We also lost folk in our family to COVID. We also had, members of our community lose significantly financially or hunger. All those things that we experienced, that happens to us personally. But we tend to get up and keep moving. I realized that we have a foundation, the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which gives free mental health therapy to anyone who comes through that door who are of color. And we weren't even getting the mental health services. My team was not even taking advantage of that support, because all we knew and could think about is, how do we serve them? Forgetting that them is us, So I'm right there with you, sis, on that piece. And Elisha, Kyaien, I want to jump right over to you and talk about This Is My Brave. And I love that. It's such significant work. As a litigator and investigator on so many key issues that are directly traumatic, how do you personally stay brave and balanced in such powerful advocacy spaces?
Wow, that's a great question. And let me just first say, for those who don't know, that This Is My Brave is a national nonprofit organization that focuses on reducing stigma about mental health challenges. And it focuses on individuals bravely sharing their stories of their personal experience with mental illness or addiction, as well as their road to recovery, with a goal of changing the narrative about mental health, creating safe spaces for conversations about the mental health treatment system, and ultimately to save lives. Serving as a mental health advocate is critical, especially in the Black community. So doing this work has been incredibly rewarding for me, especially when you get to see the difference you're making in people's lives. I've had students tell me that after attending a This Is My Brave show, that they were so inspired by someone's story that they found a clinician and started treatment, or for the first time, they felt hope about their own recovery journey. And those comments make all the work worthwhile. And constantly hearing and taking in the traumas of other people, the crises, the fear, the grief, this can certainly begin to take a toll on your own mental health, sometimes subconsciously. So I too, like Elisha, have my own therapist. I think that all therapists need a therapist, a non-biased professional that's there for you to listen, process through challenges, help you focus on your goals, and help you to achieve that balance that we all need to be healthy. And I think, just to go back to our earlier conversation, even in advocacy roles, when we're constantly giving and not taking time to refill our own cup, we put ourselves at risk for burnout, a state of physical and or emotional exhaustion. And I have definitely been there. Exhaustion is a normal reaction to high levels of stress. And mental health advocacy can be particularly stressful. There are so many people in need of help, but denying yourself proper rest, self-care, time to replenish your spirit, even when there are others in need and when the cause is worthy, this has serious health implications. So that self-care is critical to break that stress cycle that leads to burnout, gives us the opportunity to recover our energy and passion, allowing us to keep doing the important work that we're doing. And I think I've also learned that I have to pay attention to not only what drains me, but also to what it is that re-energizes me. It's a part of coping, and coping with stress is a skill. And what we do to cope is different for everyone. Do you need more sleep, a break from social media, to journal, find ways to express yourself through artistic means, connect with friends, family, children, spend time in meditation, or spend time in prayer? All of these are opportunities to re-energize and retain balance in your life. And sometimes I actually have to pencil these activities into my calendar the same way that I do my work responsibilities, because that way it holds me accountable. And there's a mantra that I say to myself: what would it look like for you to take care of yourself today before taking care of others? Imagine how much more you'll have to give to them, but also to yourself.
100%, 100%. And thank you so much for that. You hit that magic word for me, that prayer. That prayer. We come from a prayer. We're here by prayer. And that leads me directly to you, Dr. Anita Phillips. And you know how much I appreciate you and love the work that you do in the community, bridging the conversation between faith and the mental health healing space. And so I definitely want to hit on that topic this evening. Through your spiritual work in the church community, what have you observed of members that are leaning on faith for healing, yet are still struggling and rejecting help from a therapist? How do you offer guidance to them for making the total connection?
Well, first, I want to say that I think that we should take that challenge where people are struggling to accept help from a mental health professional. As professionals, we should take on that challenge. How are we failing to communicate our message? Because if this was my client, how would I speak to my client? You know, we can get a little rough, like, oh, the Black church needs to, the Black church needs. You would never say, look, client, you need to. That client's not going to come to you.
Right.
Because you're talking to them like an outsider, like someone who's not in love with them, like someone who's not part of that community. I'm part of this community. These are my mothers and my sisters, my brothers. These are my people. And I have had the same questions as them because I want to know what my Bible says. How do I bring my spirituality in? And so I think it's just really important that for therapists or other people who are in the Black church who want to see a difference, to make sure we're not attacking ourselves. Because I think that is one of the ways that's maybe even a little internalized racism can sneak in, you know, but the Black, we got to watch that because we're hurting ourselves.
Ma'am.
Yeah. And it's like, why are you saying that? Have you spent years at a white church? Have you spent years? Because I have. And let me tell you, everybody's got issues. Nobody's running to the therapist in white churches, largely Asian churches. It's not going well anywhere. So let's talk about that and not make ourselves, because the opposite of making ourselves superhuman is to super debase. So why are we putting ourselves down as if we are lower than other humans? Like we're not having a special problem. We are having, there's a unique shape to our problem, but the problem's not unique. So I want to say that because I think if we allow more love to be in this conversation, we'll see it more successful in the future. Go ahead.
And also giving respect to our culture, right? And many of us practice different things in many different ways and all the things and such. But there is an honor and a respect that I think, even if we want to debate around this topic, that we can at least honor the historical context of where prayer has gotten us, and where
absolutely
has gotten us, holding on to that. Later on, I'm going to talk to Dr. Kevin Washington about cultural competency. And, you know, we have this one lens about ourselves and our experience. We forget about the segmented population that we are and where our experiences have come from and brought us to. So I completely respect the work that you're doing, Anita. And I'm sorry, Anita is my friend. So,
girl, absolutely. Absolutely.
Dr. Anita Phillips. And you know, we have Dr. Henson now.
Oh.
You know, she's just received her doctorate from Howard University. So, you know, we have to call her doctor now. I'm kidding. But I also wanted to know from you personally, Anita, how you were able to find the intersection in theory and spirituality and your work as a therapist. Was there a magic moment for you where it all just connected and came together?
There kind of was. You know, I when I was doing my PhD, I wanted to spend time creating theories of human behavior from which we could do therapy specifically for highly religious Black women. So I had a very unique focus. But because I'm asking God to help me do a work of faith, I started in scripture, and the Spirit led me to study creation, the things that he made. And so in Romans 1:20, there's a scripture that says that which may be known of God are seen clearly if we look at the things that are made. And so I started studying the things he made. And I've learned a tremendous amount from plants about how the Creator has us to function. So I often explain it to people that way. The seed is a word, and that's a spiritual thing. A word is a spiritual thing. No matter who speaks it, it's not a religious thing. Words are spirit. And so when that seed falls into the soil of your heart, the heart nourishes that seed. If the heart is broken, the seed may not be nourished. And so then, hey, Proverbs 15:13 says, by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. Now they're beginning to see like that there is interaction in scripture between spirit and emotion and mind and behavior, which is called fruit. And so now we have the seed of the spirit falling to heart. The heart nourishes the plant, which is the mind that grows out of the spirit, the mind of the spirit. And then we bear fruit. And it's right there on the page. And the Bible says what? That I want you to be like a well-watered garden, Isaiah 58, whose springs fail not. You know, and so it's in the book. The problem is we've been looking in the book for our face. We study the people. We weren't looking for God. If you go looking for God and start learning about what he made and then realize he made you, the conversation starts to go really well. And so I think that I've been blessed to be able to have success in that space. One, I grew up in it. I grew up with a sister who had a serious mental illness and nobody understood it. And I didn't either. And I asked God, why am I losing my sister? And I believe he was faithful to answer me. So it really comes down to what my sister Elisha said. I'm one of you. I'm part of this community. Yeah. These spiritual questions are my questions. But as I said before, with any client, if you show up with your answer and all you're looking to do is convince people to see it your way, you always lose. Ooh. You always lose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, ladies, we could go all evening with this conversation. So we're going to have to do a little meetup to continue this conversation. Keep lifting each other up and empowering our community on the way. But I did want to make sure that I got to a couple of quick rapid fire questions for you. And you can answer any way that you would like. What tips would you give as takeaways for self-care and protecting your light to those who are watching today? And these are all the advocates and mental health practitioners that are in the audience, even the community members who've come to understand you better and to celebrate you. What would you leave with them as self-care tips? And I'm going to start with you, Kyaien, and I'm going to mention what I know about you that you don't know that I know about you. And that is your African dance, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. What?
Kept secret.
Amazing. Sabah, right?
Thank you. Well, that was actually part of my self-care tip. Storytelling and telling our story through the arts is a huge part of our people. Yeah. It's a part of our culture. Throughout our history, we have shared our stories of successes, oppression, injustices, tragedies, celebrations, and traditions, and we found healing in expressing ourselves in song and dance, and we've learned that our stories are powerful. And a long time ago, I connected with West African dance. Through my connection with dance, and specifically cultural dance, I found a connection to my ancestry, a connection to fill a gap or a hole in my history that I had been yearning and longing for. So that is self-care for me. I have found an art form that allows me to connect spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically to my people, to my ancestors, to my community. I give weekly dance classes for all ages, all levels, all abilities, drum classes, so that our community can connect to some aspects of our heritage that long predate our time in this country. So finding something like that is incredibly powerful, and that is what re-energizes me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I will be coming down all the way down to Florida to take that class. I'm a West African baby, so I love it. Thank you. And I'll move to you, Elisha. What are some of your self-care? I don't want to say tips. I want to say, what do you do that maybe some of us can pick up on or learn from?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think for me, I would say, and it goes back to something you said, Tracie, is how do I honor myself? And how do I honor myself looks really different on some days. Some days honoring myself and being mindful of where I am and what I'm going through means that I need a good cry. And normalizing that, a good cry is okay. And it is not a weakness, right? Sometimes honoring what I need means that I need to put myself in a space with positive, refreshing, spiritual energies that not only match mine, but can lift mine up when I don't have what it takes in me, right? But I think for me, if I had to name one thing that has just been life-changing for me, is I cannot start my morning or my day without centering God. right? When I do, and sometimes it happens, I feel very off balance. I need to figure out a way, whether it is reading the scripture, whether it is listening to a pre-recorded session, a church service on YouTube, whether it is reading a book, digging into a book written by a spiritual leader. It is so important to me to ground myself before my son says good morning to me, before my son says what's for breakfast, before I read an email. That type of honoring myself and knowing what I need, being mindful, right, and honoring yourself. It looks differently for all of us. But, I would just say again, if sometimes you need a good cry, that's okay.
Don't get
that is a strength.
A nice ugly cry too.
Look,
not the pretty one where you're gonna mess your makeup up.
The snotty one. Yeah, the snotty one. Viola Davis.
It's very necessary.
Agreed. Oh yes. And Anita, what would you say? What's one of the things that you do to sort of love up on yourself and take care of your temple?
I lean into my safe relationships. I lean into my safe relationships. I intentionally I have 2 friends that are safe relationships, and I lean into that. Hey, do you have time for me today to just let some stuff out? Yeah. I love moving. As our other sister said, movement is huge because it gets our emotions moving as well. Cry, let that out. But sometimes do that with another person. I don't think our only option should be care for others or care for ourselves. I want there to be cared for. And I can choose that. I can call my friend and just cry and have a fit and be vulnerable in front of another person. It's so healing.
Yeah.
And we're meant to live in relationship, and we underutilize relationship very often because we're trying to take care of someone else or ourselves. And then we do it with God, which is important, but sometimes we substitute him for the vulnerability that we should take on to lean into our relationships with our friends. We hide behind that. Well, I got God, and that's all I need. And no, Sonny, you need some people. And I want you to talk to him. But
you love calling people out, don't you?
Right? I do it with a smile, though, right? Hey, come on. God is there for you, but he gave you these sisters, right? The Bible says when you are falling down to pray with each other, that you may be healed. Yeah. And so there's power in that. And I just feel like we should lean into it more. Yeah.
But you got to find the right sisters first. Right?
Yeah, I said you're safe. You're safe. You're safe.
Look, don't start a new parent discussion.
Yeah, you're safe.
Closing up, Elisha.
But you know what? It's worth the risk.
Right.
It's worth the risk. That's the risk. Because again, we all feel like we're safe, but we aren't sure anyone else is.
Right.
So lean in a little. It's worth it.
I go back and ask myself, well, maybe it's you, babe. Maybe it's you. Have you considered that? And I'll leave us there because I'm not going to go into that. Thank you so much, our guardians of the sun. I love each and every one of you and for everything that you offer us every single day. The millions of children and families that you touch and lift through your amazing work. We give thanks for you, and we are claiming together our joy over everything. So thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you.
So good. Oh my gosh. So good. Thank you, Guardians of the Sun, and all of the guardians out there who work tirelessly to keep our communities together. We appreciate our Black women, and we need to tell you that as often as we can. Amen. The Henson Foundation has been supporting and blossoming our next generation of clinicians and healers through our scholarship fund, where we give $10,000 awards to recipients each year. Now, so far, we've given a total of 14 scholarships. You will meet a few of our scholars this evening, starting with a soon-to-be Guardian of the Sun, Nicole Morris. Take a look.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Morris, and I'm currently pursuing my Master's of Clinical Social Work at the University of Pennsylvania. Honestly, the scholarship has just been godsend. It has been so incredibly just amazing to have that. It went straight to my tuition, and it helped me finish the rest of my first year at UPenn, and I graduate next year, which is super exciting. I'm currently pursuing a career in medical social work. So being in medical social work, I think is a great place to be to help the Black community specifically, as there isn't enough representation of us in healthcare at the moment. So just being able to be a comfortable face, but also knowing, like, being a part of the Black community. I'm also from Philadelphia as well, so I'm currently working in the hospitals here, and just being able to kind of bridge that gap between like medical literacy, sometimes like not having like all of the education that kind of helps you understand like what's really happening, what do you need, how do you advocate for yourself in a medical setting. I think that is definitely what I'm working towards to help the Black community going forward. Thank you.
Congratulations, Nicole. We are so proud of you, and we're rooting for you, girl. Now, if you're interested in our scholarship opportunities, you can visit the website for more information at borislhensonfoundation.org. Do that, okay? All right, the time has come to relax and release. We encourage you to always invest in your own joy as a priority. After all, we've got to pour back into ourselves that which we pour out for the care of others, right? We do. Our Joy Salons feature integrated health and wellness champions that are here to share with you the joy of adding time for self-care in your life. Let's all vow today to prioritize our dedication to choosing joy over everything. Salons are now open, and we'll be back here shortly. For now, enjoy.
My name is Riva Nyri, and I'm here to offer you a sound bath experience. I invite you to sit in a comfortable position and check in with your body, check in with your breath, and be ready to receive.
Lasciami sole cucce, l'ora è forte, la pluie tombe. Deep breath in. Deep breath
chest out. Release the shoulders. Relax your jaw.
Greetings, my name is Dr. Naika, and I would like to welcome you to the Self-Care Salon on sleep support and stress management. I'm a naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, and herbalist based in New York City. And from one healer to another, I want to salute you and thank you for all of the amazing work that you do in this world. My intention is that this workshop is useful to you, that it's interesting and immediately actionable, so we could get you feeling your best, getting the deepest sleep ever, and moving through your day with as much energy as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. So why is sleep so important anyway? I mean, it's established that we move throughout our day with a different level of swag when we have a good night's sleep, right? We feel energized, we feel confident, we feel optimal, and ready to take on our day. Let's talk about different lifestyle tips and tricks that you can incorporate into your day. You know, as healers, it's so easy to take on other people's energy. We hear all of these incredible stories throughout the day. We're helping folks move through really difficult things on top of our own stuff. And I think with the whole work from home thing, which may be your situation, it may be sometimes hard to have some boundaries between work time and you time. I believe in creating little rituals throughout your day for moments like this. So it could look like washing your hands at the end of the workday, or, you know, the second you get home, taking a shower or a bath. It could look like burning some plant material, like sage or Palo Santo, or, you know, lighting a candle, something that feels sort of ceremonial and will close off the day in order to close one chapter and start the next chapter. From there, I recommend doing something mindfulness-based, so meditations or some quick breath work. Doing a couple of rounds of that is really helpful for coming to the present moment. Again, kind of sealing your day and setting a really mindful and intentional tone for the rest of your evening. The next lifestyle tip involves journaling. And I know some people love journaling, some people don't, but journaling is awesome because it helps you take your thoughts from in here and puts them in an external source so they don't have to live in your head, especially when you're trying to sleep. So a lot of us may have worries or concerns about the next day, you know, all these things that we have to do, maybe things that we didn't finish today. And all of these restless thoughts can actually impact our sleep negatively. So even if writing isn't your thing, maybe journaling down some of your top worries or your top to-dos for tomorrow, you know, could really help shift your evening. And if that's not your vibe, you could also journal, you know, things that you're grateful for, or maybe some highs and lows throughout the day, or maybe even write some stories down that really touched you throughout your day. So again, they're not necessarily marinating in your head and in your heart. You've acknowledged them, you've honored them, and you've kind of put them away. So journaling is so awesome before bed. Right, now let's talk about pre-bed nutrition. I want to start with foods that you should maybe, you know, avoid or limit and just invite some consciousness around. So alcohol, coffee, processed sugar, caffeine, spicy foods, and heavy, rich, fatty foods all have been shown to negatively impact sleep. And while they might invite a feeling of sort of relaxation and satisfaction and maybe a little bit of tiredness, over the long run, they actually put a lot of strain on your body because your body has to choose between resting and digesting the food. And so if your body is spending all of its energy on digesting really heavy foods, really rich foods, it's taking away from energy that it could use to help you sleep. Now, what should you add to your diet for optimal sleep support? So you should be adding foods that feel nourishing and warming and comforting, and that are higher on the protein, healthy fat, and fiber side. So examples of healthy proteins could be lean meats if you eat meat, so like chicken or fish or turkey. And if you are plant-based, it could look like tempeh or tofu or seitan or whatever your favorites are. And healthy fiber could be grains like brown rice or quinoa, barley or amaranth, or if you prefer eating porridge or oats, that's fantastic. And then examples of healthy fats include salmon, so going back to the protein, or avocados, coconut, and then all of the healthy oils like olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil. These foods are not only filling and nourishing, but they are easier for your body to digest. So the energy that it would have to spend on digesting really heavy, fatty, rich foods, it could spend less energy digesting these healthier foods and then more energy on supporting you with sleep. The other tip is to avoid eating at least 2 hours before bed. And I know how hard this one could be, especially when you're watching a movie, you're watching Netflix, you got the popcorn, you got the snacks. It's so easy to just kind of keep snacking until you eventually fall asleep. But again, you want to just give your body a little bit of a break, a little bit of a shot to really digest and process the food that you just gave it so that you could fall asleep better and get a better night's sleep. Now I'm going to talk to you about herbal medicine for sleep support. There are fewer things that are more empowering and more lovely than creating your own medicine with your own hands. And most plants are super safe, super easy to find, and are very, very accessible. The herbs that I've selected today have multiple functions, like all plants really. They help with digestion, sleep support, stress management, mood, etc. So with all of these herbs, you could find them at your local grocery store or at your local herb shop or even online. The first herb is the most classic herb that I'm sure most of you have had before, especially if you're a tea lover, and that is chamomile. You can literally find it at any grocery store ever at a very accessible price point, probably starting at around $3 or $4. A pro tip, if you buy store-bought tea bags, is that you'll need 3 tea bags per 1 cup of water to get a medicinal dose of herbal tea. If you're getting the loose herb tea, you'll need just about a teaspoon per cup of water. Why am I choosing chamomile? Chamomile is amazing. It helps with digestion, helps with gas and bloating, helps to support a healthy mood, and it helps to induce some sleepiness. So if there's any tea that I recommend you go and buy right away, it is chamomile tea. The next herb I want to highlight is lavender. We all know lavender. It smells so good. Yeah, I chose it because you could use it internally, just like chamomile, or you could use it externally in the form of, essential oils, or maybe a little bath bomb, or just literally sprinkling some lavender in your bathtub. It really helps to promote relaxation. It helps to soothe your nervous system, and when taken internally, it helps to improve digestion and induce sleep, and it's really, really good at alleviating anxiety as well. The third herb I want to highlight is peppermint. Peppermint is incredible for digestion, so gas and bloating, just like chamomile and lavender, but also indigestion. I also chose peppermint because it is allergy season right now, and peppermint is phenomenal. It provides a little bit of immune support, and it helps to open up the sinuses so you could get a bit more flow and breathe a bit more easily. And then in terms of relaxation, it has this really interesting dual action. It is able to promote mental clarity, but it somehow relaxes the body at the same time. The fourth herb I'd like to highlight is lemon balm. Between you and me, lemon balm is kind of my favorite herb. It's a classic mind-gut connection herb. So if you're somebody whose anxiety or stress manifests in your gut, maybe as indigestion and upset stomach, lemon balm is your friend. It's also so incredibly easy to grow. You literally just need a little leaf. You stick it in the soil and it'll take over your entire garden, which is a good thing, I think, because I really like lemon balm. The bonus is, like peppermint, it has some immune supportive qualities. In fact, it's a really amazing antiviral. So if you're wanting an herb that'll kind of do it all for you, lemon balm is your friend. The first nutraceutical I want to highlight is 5-HTP. It is a precursor to serotonin, which is known as the happy or feel-good chemical. So 5-HTP really helps with mood support and it helps you get a more restful slumber. 5-HTP is super accessible. You could find it at any drugstore, and it'll most likely be in combination with a nutraceutical called GABA, which I think is a fantastic combination. The second nutraceutical I want to highlight is one that you've absolutely heard of before, and that is melatonin. Melatonin is a natural hormone that your body secretes, and it is very intimately related to the light and dark cycles of nature. And so melatonin is going to be ideal for you if you have trouble even knowing that it's time to sleep. So if you're a person who doesn't get sleep signals, around 10 or 11, like if you're somebody who will frequently stay up until like maybe 2 or 3 or even later because your brain just isn't quite registering the difference between light and dark, between daytime and nighttime. So that's when you want to use melatonin. Melatonin is also phenomenal if you are somebody who travels a lot for work, especially across time zones. Melatonin is really going to help you with jet lag, again, because it's going to help your body be more sensitive and in tune to the natural cycles and rhythms of day and night. Like 5-HTP, you could find melatonin at literally any drugstore, starting at about $3. The last nutraceutical I want to talk about is magnesium. Magnesium is helpful for regulating digestion, mood, and sleep. So let's say you're somebody who has constipation and excess stress and insomnia, magnesium is a great starting point. It also helps to regulate melatonin, which I spoke about earlier, and it also helps to bind to GABA. GABA I spoke about in relation to 5-HTP earlier. So magnesium kind of touches on all of what I spoke about today. Similarly to the other nutraceutical supplements, you could find magnesium at any drugstore, usually starting at around $5. Okay, that is a wrap for our session today. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention, and it's been an honor to share space with you today. I hope that you feel empowered and excited about taking your healing into your own hands, and I look forward to when our paths cross again. Okay, see ya.
Welcome everyone. My name is Tara Nicolas, and I am a meditation instructor, a Reiki master, an actor, and a Nike trainer. I'm so excited to be here with all of you in this salon. Our focus is going to be how to ground yourself using meditation. So we all have experiences, good, bad, and everything in between. The thing is about when experiences are particularly unpleasant is that they start to force us into a state of fight or flight. So what does that mean? It means you're holding tension, you're not breathing properly, all your blood is in your extremities, your digestion starts to get a little strange, you're not thinking properly because your blood flow isn't flowing properly to your brain, and that starts to really wreak havoc on your physiological body, your spiritual body, every aspect of your being, all right? So what I wanna do is guide us through something called Radiant Human Meditation. There are many different exercises I can show you, but I just wanna show you a few that you can do whether you have a lot of time, you can do them for a long period of time, or whether you just have a moment before going into a meeting, or if you just had something very unpleasant happen and you just want to come back into your wholeness, into your authentic self, and plug back into your unique connection to source. That's what this meditation practice is all about, to come back into you and to feel like you're not falling victim to the tug of war, the push and pull that the world can be kind of making you feel. All right. So while I explain just a little bit more, I want you to find a comfortable position. So you notice me, I'm a little more upright because I'm excited and I want to talk to you about all this. But for you, already start to get really comfortable. If you're in a chair, lay back. If you're laying down, put something under your knees. And if possible, try not to cross your wrists or your ankles. I know we all have many different traditions of meditation, those of us who've meditated before, but this style of meditation is receptive. So anything that comes up, if it's agitation, if it's thoughts, you don't need to judge. There's nothing that needs fixing. There's nothing that you can mess up. Anything that comes up, I like to give this visual of it's like a boat sailing by. You see the boat, that's your thought. Okay, thought, I acknowledge you. And then as the boat would float away, you let go of that thought. You don't need to fixate on it. If you were to drift to sleep and suddenly become aware, just come back. You will get the benefits of this practice, all right? So I just wanna let you know that it's all good. Really just free yourself to have the experience that shows up for you. Some of my most powerful meditation experience experiences have happened when I was super agitated throughout the session. So I just want to let you know, once again, you can't mess this up. So just get comfortable, okay? So finding a comfortable position if you haven't already. And the space you're in is up to you. Some of us have this like wonderfully curated space. You see, I got my plants. Sometimes I have crystals. And sometimes I'm on the train just trying to calm myself down before I have to do what I have to do. So these practices can be done whether you have that perfect environment or whether it's chaos and mayhem around you. So also don't feel like it's not for you. It is for all of us. So really wonderful way to start any meditation practice is to start to tune in to your senses. If you haven't already, close down those eyes. Do not disturb your gadgets. And just start to tune in to any sensations, any thoughts. And I want you to approach everything with this childlike curiosity, this playfulness, to start to get yourself out of this paradigm of it's good or it's bad, it's success or it's failure, it's right or it's wrong. Let's just all agree that for these next few moments that we're together, we can just be, and we can have the experience that shows up for us. And just noticing the quality of your breath, whatever surface you're on, if it's a chair or a couch or your bed, noticing if you're holding your muscles, if you're holding tension anywhere, and you've become aware of it, you just let it go. Notice your temperature, a smell, taste. What do you see even with your eyes closed? And again, without any judgment, really allowing yourself to observe. And from this space, start to bring into your awareness something that you feel gratitude for. So this word gratitude can mean something different for all of us. So it can be something that brings you joy. It can be something that makes you smile. And if you're having trouble finding a sensation of gratitude, simply allowing a smile over your face is enough. And so start to bring that sensation of gratitude into your heart. And when you're ready, taking a deep inhale, filling up your heart, letting it expand. And then as you exhale, wringing out the heart like a sponge, feeling the sensation of gratitude radiating out into the physical body and beyond. And just repeating that process, using your breath, inhaling into your heart, feeling the heart expand, enjoying the sensation of gratitude. Then as you exhale, like rays of a sun, letting the sensation of gratitude permeate out into every aspect of the body, through bones, maybe on a molecular level, and just observing what comes up as you do this gratitude breath. A gratitude practice, even for just a few moments of day, can already start to change your body chemistry. You're increasing neuroplasticity. And in that process, that means that you're literally creating new patterns, new pathways for your body. So if you're used to always reacting a certain way, whether it's a trigger, whether it's a certain person, whether it's a certain place, coming into a place of gratitude starts to allow yourself to let go of these different cords, these different attachments in the past, in the future, anything that could be getting in the way of you manifesting your intentions. And each time you sit and meditate or lay and meditate, each time you create that space for yourself, that sacred space, you attune yourself more and more to what is in alignment with you. You start to plug yourself in to your unique connection to source, clarify the channels of communication, and just protect yourself more and more from anything that does not serve you. On your next exhale, you're going to shift your awareness from your heart to your feet. So just take a moment here to be aware of the soles of the feet. And just notice any sensations, staying curious. And from here, we're gonna sweep our breath. We're gonna take a deep inhale through the soles of the feet, the entire length of our body, all the way up to the top of the head. And then as you exhale, removing any toxins, any stress, anything that isn't serving you out through the soles of the feet for the earth to receive. And so as you inhale, you bring in more of that grounding earth energy. You bring in more of what supports you, what empowers you, bringing that in with your breath through the entire length of your body, all the way up to the top of the head, hovering for a moment at the top of the head. And then as you exhale, you can even exaggerate that exhale, really feeling yourself pulling out any stagnation, anything that isn't serving you out through the soles of the feet. And just continuing this sweeping breath at your own pace, using your inhale to move your breath up to the top of the head, using your exhale to release any tension. And as you do this, the breath is like a virtual comb, moving through, maybe there's past injuries, any ailments, perhaps you're intuitively guided to hover your breath over a certain area, and just really allowing yourself this exploration and this freedom in your practice. Our breath, when we sweep it, is moving through different energy portals. So our feet are a very important energy portal that are neglected all too often. So we start with our feet and sweep our way through all the other portals. And we're exploring these different directions to start to disrupt any stagnation, any energetic cobwebs, if you will, that could be holding us in patterns that are no longer serving us. So just allow your breath to gently move through these different areas. And then on your next exhale, letting go of your sweeping breath, and just observe for a moment any sensations, any thoughts. And from here, we're going to do an exercise called Healing the Target. And so keeping your eyes closed, bring your hands about a hand's width distance apart, palms facing each other, and bring into your awareness either something that you want to strengthen, so something that is working, something that you want to nourish, or something perhaps that is not working for you that you would like to transmute. And bring whatever you've chosen between your hands. And we're going to use our heart breath to inhale into our heart. And then as you exhale, visualize that heart energy, that gratitude breath going in through your arms, into your hands, in that space between your hands, starting to either strengthen an aspect or to transmute an aspect. So something that you want less of is what you would transmute. Something that you want more of is what you would strengthen. And just visualize whatever it is between your hands, using that heart breath on the inhale, and on your exhale, allowing that breath to go out from your heart through your arms into your hands. And just taking your time here. Couple more breaths. And you can stay with this as long as you want, or you can start to let it go and bring the hands down by your side. And just take a moment to really congratulate yourself for making this time for your self-healing. It is such an honor to be in this space with all of you, to do this work, to be together. Again, my name is Tara Nicolas. Thank you so much for being here. Continue to be well, keep in touch with me, and let me know how you're doing. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. My name is Linda Lopes. I am a yoga instructor, a guided energy healing practitioner, and a mindfulness educator. I am so excited to be here with you today to share a chair movement practice. So I invite you to find a seat, a comfortable seat, folding chair, desk chair, edge of your bed, or couch. And once you find that seat, sit towards the middle of it so there's some space back behind you. And then allow for your hands to rest on the tops of your thighs. Taking a moment here to ground into our practice, I invite you to soften your gaze or close your eyes. Feel this seat underneath you as it is supporting your body. And then feel your feet here grounding down towards the earth, supporting you. And take a big deep breath in. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do that one more time. Big breath in. And exhale. Gently flutter the eyes open or lift your gaze. Beautiful. I invite you to release your chin down towards your chest. Starting to release some tension along the back of the neck and the tops of the shoulders, and let your shoulders relax down. At any point in our practice today, if it is supportive to soften your gaze or close your eyes again, please do so. And just breathing into this space and into this release for 3 more breaths. Start to send your right ear towards your right shoulder, and then take a pause here, just feeling into the stretch. And then slowly let the head drop back as we start to create a circle here. And then your left ear will meet your left shoulder, and we'll take a pause here. And return your chin down towards your chest. And reversing the circle here, return your left ear towards your left shoulder and pause. And slowly let the head roll back. Right ear meets your right shoulder again. We pause again. And let your chin drop down towards your chest. And take a big breath in. And exhale. Take your gaze up, chin parallel to the earth. Squeeze and lift your shoulders up towards your ears. Send your shoulders back, down, forward, and up towards your ears again. We'll take these circles 2 more times. Send your shoulders back, down, forward. Squeeze them up. 1 more circle, shoulders back, down, forward, and up. Squeeze, 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 and then relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a breath in. Exhale. Squeeze and lift your shoulders up towards your ears. We'll reverse the circle this time. Shoulders forward, down, back, up. 2 more times. Forward, down, back. Squeeze them up 1 more time. Forward, down, back. Squeeze them up. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a big breath in.
Exhale. Extend and reach your arms up towards the sky. Stretch through your fingers and wiggle through them. Take some circular motion through your wrist. And then rotate in the opposite direction. Beautiful. Stretch up, look up. Then start to shake out through your hands and your arms as you lower them down. Shake, 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 shake. And then relax your hands on your legs. Big breath in. Big exhale. Returning your chin to drop down towards your chest. This time round through your spine as you press the backside of your body back behind you. And then finding the counter to this articulation of the spine, shift and send your heart forward as you look up towards the ceiling or the sky. We arch the spine here. Take a breath in. As you exhale, round through your spine, chin towards your chest, press the backside of your body in the space behind you. Inhale, arch through the spine, look up. Exhale, round through your spine, chin to chest. Inhale, heart forward, look up. Exhale, round through your spine. We'll take a couple more cycles here. Breathing in, heart lifts, look up. Exhale, round. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, round. Inhale, heart lifts, gaze lifts. And then as you exhale, find your long, neutral spine. Take a breath in. And exhale. Place your left hand to the outside of your right leg. Reach your right arm up towards the sky. Look out and over to the right side of your space as you reach and tip over towards the left side of your space. We find a side stretch here. Stay for 3 more breaths. 1 more breath. Lengthen up through your spine, take your gaze forward, relax and release your right hand down and return your left hand to the left side of your body. Beautiful. This time, take your right hand to the outside of your left leg, reach your left arm up towards the sky and look out towards your left. And then tip over towards the right side of your space, side stretch in the opposite direction. And we'll stay for 3 more breaths. 1 more breath. Lengthen up. Relax your left hand down. Return your right hand to the right side of your body. Take a big breath in. And exhale. Extend, reach your arms up towards the sky again here. Keeping your knees pointing forward, toes pointing forward, and feet grounded. Start to twist and rotate through your spine to the right side of your space. With your right hand, bring it to the low back or to the back of your seat. And then with your left hand, bring it to the outside of your right leg. Look back behind you over your right shoulder. You find a seated twist here for 3 more breaths. One more breath. Slowly coming out of this twist, gaze forward, return your hands to the tops of your thighs. Inhale. And exhale. Extend, reach your arms up. This time we'll twist open to the left side of our space. Left hand to your low back or to the seat. Right hand outside of your left leg. And then take your gaze back behind you over your left shoulder and breathe. We'll stay for 2 more breaths. And slowly coming out of this twist, returning your hands to the tops of your thighs. Let's take another big deep breath in.
And exhale. Beautiful. Extend and reach your arms up towards the sky. This time, gather your palms. Big breath in. Exhale, lower your hands down to your heart space. Inhale, reach up. Look up. Exhale, hands to your heart. One more time. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Release your chin down towards your chest. You can soften your gaze or close your eyes. Take a moment here to acknowledge yourself, to honor yourself. Notice how you feel in this moment. Let's take another big breath in together. And exhale. Release your hands back down onto the tops of your thighs. Flutter your eyes open or lift your gaze. I thank you all so much for joining me here today for this chair movement practice. I wish you a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.
This is Fantasia, sending love and support to all of our Black professional mental health therapists. Thank you so much for diving beneath the surface to help our greatness come to life. God bless you.
We have more enlightening and lively, sometimes touching and poignant, but always relevant and authentic conversations for you in our Fireside chats. Explore the roots of rest with Tricia Hersey, founder of the NAP Ministry and the Dismond Suite. A heartfelt conversation in joy and brave space with Sage Dolan-Sandrino and Dr. David Johns, and the importance of real understanding in Let's Talk About Cultural Competency with Dr. Kevin Washington and Tracie Jade. Select the Fireside chat you'd like to join, and we'll see you back here soon.
Let's just get this out of the way right away. This is about more than naps. Tell us where you were in your life when you realized that rest was a tool of resistance, liberation, and healing.
Yeah, definitely. I think I probably always knew that just because of how I was raised and watching my grandmother and father and people in my family really, struggle with trying to maintain in the capitalist system. And so, but I believe when I really started to hone in on this idea, it came to me while I was in divinity school. And so I was going through so much. I was in divinity school as an artist. So I've been an artist for 20 years before I even went into divinity school. And while I was there, I was studying creativity and spirituality, Black liberation, cultural trauma, and so many things personally were happening to me. And I also was being attacked by being in a predominantly white institution, and Black Lives Matter was heating up. And so I began to kind of use all of the tools I've had from the 20 years of being an activist, an artist, a person who's really deeply involved in community. And so I just began to experiment. It became an experimentation. It's still to this day, it's still an experimentation. It's an experimentation of what my body could do and what my spirit could hold when I began to slow down, when I began to just rest, when I began to listen. And so I really believe that I landed on the idea and just began the experimentation in 2013 while I was my first year of graduate school.
That is so significant. And from that's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And you were able to find, you speak specifically about finding that place of liberation. Yes. It was liberating to rest.
Yes.
And it was healing to rest.
Mm-hmm.
So now move us forward into forming this significant movement, mm-hmm. Where we are energized and we strategize. Lead us forward to that full-blown moment of rest, resistance, and the birth of NAP Ministry.
Yeah, I love that question because I think it speaks so much to the idea of Black women and the idea of womanist and people and Black women and how we see our healing, our liberation, our freedom intimately tied to the freedom of this entire nation. And so it really became, for me, I'm seeing so much happen in my own body. Things are beginning to make sense for me. I'm beginning to feel more connected to my ancestors. I was deeply seeing this as a political and social justice movement. So because I come from that place, I come from a place of community activism and organizing. My dad was an organizer. I grew up like that in Chicago. I really began to wonder and understand that we can't heal alone. Like, healing does not happen alone. So people keep talking about individualism and this idea of self. That is an idea that has been placed on us from an outside force. We understand and know that we cannot heal alone. It has to be done collectively. It has to be done in community. That's the only way we'll make it and have made it, really. And so I just decided one day to host an event. I was just going to share all of these findings that I have found out, kind of like a thesis, presentation of everything I had learned and experimented with in my grad program. And really just as an artist, I wanted to just host something for the community. And it became this event where people came out, they rested with me, they listened to my thesis, they really got involved in this whole performance art piece. And I never thought it would be more than that. I was happy with me being able to pull it together and have people come for that one day. It was really like, I'm a performance artist and theater maker, so I launch things all the time. I'm always like putting up some new show or putting up some new ritual or some new piece. And so I was like, I'm so happy that these 40 people are out here with me tonight. They're resting. They were sleeping for 22 hours. I couldn't wake people up. They were like, they could not wake up. I was like, you got to get out the room. I only have it for a couple hours. They were like knocked out, waking up, crying, really powerful stuff. And so from that moment, I knew this could be something that we can continue on with the community. So I just slowly built it. I would do it for 2 people, 4 people, whoever would ask me to come. They weren't paying me any money. They were like, literally like, just come. I was bringing yoga mats and dragging them into rooms and basements of churches and libraries and yoga studios. It really was community driven. And so I never thought it would be what it is. It just kept growing. It kept growing and it just kept growing.
I am so grateful. We are so grateful in the community for what you do. I've learned things just since I've been looking forward to this moment of diving deeper into what drives you. Yes. I almost hate to say a word like what drives you because we don't want to think of like drive, go, go, go.
Right.
What would you say, so often as women, as Black women in this community, like you've touched on it, we feel responsible for everything.
Yes.
We feel things so deeply. We're connected to so many things. We're always thinking about the next thing. We're selfless in our giving, whether it's systematic or whether we're fit in that super empath category.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to those folks that, we've had the hustle culture. You got to keep going. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
In my meditation teachings, I say the person who doesn't want to sit down is the one who needs to sit down and stay still the longest.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you speak to those of us out there that think that that is a selfish thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
that is a waste of time? Because like we said, this is not about naps.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to that person, that naysayer that's like, come on,
Yeah.
what do you mean a nap is resist? What do you mean a nap is a affirmative action? Because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that for us.
I think this is about more than naps, and it does include resting and actual sleep and an actual laying down. But this is really an opportunity for us to begin this idea of deprogramming and decolonizing. People have been talking about decolonizing. You've been hearing the word about us wanting to build the world we want to see. And this new wave of justice work is happening in the culture, around the Black Lives Matter movement, when the George Floyd protests, the Breonna Taylor, we saw this rise up of people understanding that the world we live in right now is not normal, it's not sustainable, it is not just, it is not equal, it is not whole. It's really not a place where we really can thrive. And so this is an opportunity, I think, for people to begin understanding that everything that they know about rest, that they think they know about rest, is false. Everything that you are holding in your socialized mind around what napping is, what it can do for you, what it means, is not true. And so this is the process to begin to decolonize and deprogram your mind and understand that resting is generative. Meaning it is not some extra thing that you do to be selfish. It is not some luxury, some privilege. It literally is the work. It literally is the foundation that's going to allow us to be able to tap into the imagination, the invention, the power that we need to really to really like move this culture and move ourselves and our families to liberation. And we know that liberation is a process. It's always going. It never ends. And so to be able to begin to reimagine resting as what it can be and not seeing it as something that's negative, something that's stopping your flow, something that's like going against your progress. It literally is progress. It is the work. It is it is serving. To rest is to serve. And so that's the key to this work. This work is really deeper than just wellness. It goes deep into the idea of social justice, political justice. It really allows people to begin to deprogram their mind from the brainwashing. You've been taught one thing, and so you're going to continue on trying to hold up that whole idea. So when you begin to see resting as being something that actually will get you to the next dimension, will help you heal, will allow you true freedom, then you begin to you can't stop napping. You can't stop. You want to keep, you want to keep dreaming. You want to keep daydreaming and slowing down because you see it as something that's generative, that's going to give to you and not take away from your progress.
One of my favorite things to say to folks that think that rest is an inactive process is like, okay, let's take a seed and just put it 6 inches into the ground.
Yeah.
Is it doing nothing?
Right.
That takes a lot of energy, a little tiny thing to push up. So that's one of my favorite examples. It's like, really? Is the tree dead in the winter?
Right.
Right? Is the bear didn't hibernate to die.
Right.
The bear hibernated to hunt. So if we take our cues from nature, this has been, tell us, now the NAP ministry, you've said you started from 40. Your first one, a group one, and then you were going 2, 4 without pay wherever people needed you. But people need you now.
Yes.
People need you now. And so we have this working against us like you want to be everywhere. We've all enjoyed here receiving your responses, your email responses.
Yes.
So someone needs to send you an email just to get the slowdown message back.
Yes.
So as the NAP ministry grows and people are getting it, I've had the pleasure of being on your lives, and I love the calm with which you answer questions and with which you converse with people.
Yeah.
But I'm curious now, as it grows and it gets bigger, and I know, you have children and all the other responsibilities. How do you protect your equilibrium in this growth phase of what's next for NAP ministry?
Yeah, people keep asking me, how do you do all of this? How have you done this? How have you built this thing? I remember when I first started, I had 300 people following the IG page, and I was so excited. I was like telling my son, look, there's 300 people. He was like, oh my goodness, that's so cool, Mommy. I'm like, 300. Now there's like almost 500,000 people. And what I have done is I've slept and rested and slowed down more. And people don't understand, like, the more you rest, the more you sleep, the more you slow down and have true healthy boundaries, the more you actually can tap into the things that are for you. You can flow, you can be in alignment. So I say no probably to 90% of the things asked of me. And look where that's got me. People are taught that you have to say yes to everything, that you have to go. And I've done the opposite. So I am like the poster child for the idea of this counter narrative, this counterintuitive idea of thinking like, I get bigger, I got to do more. No, I get bigger, I do less. And I that part. And I begin to allow people to see that you don't need me, to share this message with you. Once you got it, it's yours. Rest is ancient. your body knows the way. Your body is the real teacher. So when you begin to start this slow unraveling, this lifelong meticulous practice, this isn't a one-stop thing. This is a lifelong meticulous love practice to rest, to slow down, to see yourself as a human being and not as a machine. And so I want to offer and leave space and holes in it so that people can fill in and experiment for themselves. And so I only say yes to things that really move me in such a deep way. And I am very, very strict on boundaries and just keeping my calendar is a sacred text to me. I'm not putting anything in there unless it's going to be fulfilling me. And I think you won't know what really is going to fulfill you until you begin to slow down and rest. I'm so well rested. I'm not exhausted. I'm not sleep deprived. And because of that, I feel like I have a master key that it allows me to unlock these ideas, this invention. When you are exhausted and sleep deprived, you're not going to be able to tap into imagination and discernment. All of those things are going to be stolen from you. And so the more you rest, the more you actually are able to do more. You're able to push things. Things are able to happen for you because you're in alignment and you're manifesting and you're only choosing things that you feel deeply in your heart. If you have a calling that's really going to bring you, you don't have to do everything. I literally say no to everyone.
We feel so lucky. Thank you for sharing this message with us, because that I love you dropped a super. I love that gem drop. You said it's rest is a meticulous
love practice. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. Now, let's take it. Let's get inside of your layer, because the other thing I love is I love your lives, because it's it makes me want to say, what incense is that? What crystal? What crystal? So tell us a little bit. Just get a little bit personal with us as we wind up. Get a little personal with us and tell me about some of your favorite. What's your rest landscape?
Yes.
Let us inside your favorite things.
I really love a good couch nap. I mean, that couch, and just I know the bed, we understand the bed as the place of sleep, but I really saw the couch in that space, a soft couch, an unexpected nap, a nap where you just on the couch, you thought you were doing something else, and you wake up an hour later, and you let that body take over. I really love sleeping outdoors in sunlight. So I really love the idea of sunlight and being outdoors and nature and fresh air. So I always have windows open. I love light, houses with a lot of light. I love sleeping and napping outdoors when it's safe to do so. I also love baths. I take baths so much. I believe bathing allows you to slow down. And so for me, resting is anything that slows your body and mind down enough that you can connect with it. And so there's ways to rest that don't just look like laying flat with a blanket over you. It's dancing, it's drinking tea. I love to drink herbal teas. I really enjoy incense. Like you said, I burn incense all the time. I love Nang Chamba and herbal things. And I'm a big fan of oils. I believe when you get out from showering and you can just rub your body down from head to toe and take that time to really love on yourself and rub your skin, even if it's for 10 minutes, to me, that's a form of rest. And so there's these ideas of how we snatch rest, how we make rest for ourselves. People are always thinking, I don't have time to rest, but you actually do have time to rest when you reimagine what it can be. And when you see it as just a movement of slowing down, of connecting with your body, of listening, of saying no, of really taking things at a slow pace. And so my grandmother, Aura Caston, is really the muse of this work. She's an ancestor now, but every single day that woman sat on her plastic cover couch. Black women got to have their beautiful cover, light yellow plastic cover couch in her living room with us. She had 9 children, so many grandchildren. We running in and out the house, and she sat on that couch every day for 30 minutes to her out in between her 2 jobs, raising children. And she closed her eyes and she wasn't asleep. She would say, every shut eye ain't sleep. I'm resting my eyes. I'm resting my eyes. I'm listening to what God wants to tell me. I'm resting. And so to see her hold space like that, it didn't matter what we were doing. We were jumping in and out the house, kids. She sat on that couch and held space and meditated and rested her eyes to hear. And she would say, I'm listening. And I was a child. I'm like, what does she mean? She's like, I'm listening to what God wants to say. I'm just listening. And so to me, to understand that slowdown, to understand that we have to be subversive and inventive in how we find rest in a capitalist country, we can't wait on people to give us rest. No one will.
Gotta take it.
Won't at all. So you have to invent, imagine, be subversive, and understand and listen. So this work ultimately is really about getting people to be more human, to bringing us back to our human state, to not being machines anymore, to not working at a machine level pace, to really getting us back in tune with what our body wants. And so our body knows how to rest. We just have to listen and make space for it.
That is so beautiful. And I love that you're doing Grandma's work, her wildest dreams.
Yes. Love it. She was so loving.
She is loving it.
She's loving
it.
Yes.
And may you continue. I don't have to worry about you continuing to be rested, to continue to do this significant work.
Yes. Thank you.
In the community. I'm so grateful. Thank you for the time that you've taken to be a part of our program and keep spreading the word.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me. It's been so fun to talk with you. And I hope you continue to rest and stay.
Oh, girl. I am on that rest. I am on it because I'm like, well, I could do this.
Right, of course.
But I think I could do it better if I just take the time to rest.
Yeah, making those choices. I love that. Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
It's been my honor and pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's kick this thing off, Sage. There's a lot of talk about celebrating people who live authentically and who bring their whole selves to work. And up until recently, there hasn't been as much talk about all of the attempts, including legislative attempts, to ensure that people don't say gay or bring their whole queer selves to the places where they show up. Acknowledging this dichotomy, how do you show up in the world as you are, demanding that people sometimes and policy shift such that we can all thrive? What does it mean to you to thrive, and how does thriving show up in your life?
Before the thriving framework was introduced to me by NBJC, I didn't give much thought to the idea of thriving, to the idea of being joyous, to the idea of investing in my joy and prioritizing my joy. To me, for a long time, joy was a privilege that sometimes I was able to enjoy, but it was definitely not something that I looked at as a right, and definitely not as something that I was to prioritize. And that all changed through my work with NBJC. But that idea of just simply existing has become something that is so much more than anything simple to me, or maybe it's so simple that it is radical. But the ability to just wake up and not have the first thing on my mind be violence that I might endure when I step outside to take the train to go to work, which is something that happens to me all the time as a woman of color, as a trans woman of color. Violence is something that unfortunately is commonplace in my life, whether it be physical, economic, political, and unfortunately sometimes sexual, right? But my experience with thriving has been the experience of waking up and having a good breakfast and having moments to have community with my best friends. I love waking up and calling my best friends. I think that I heard somebody say the first thing that you do in the morning should not be check Instagram and TikTok and all your social medias. And although I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes, my first thought when I wake up is to call my sisters and to have a key. And that recharges me, right? And it reminds me that I'm not in this alone and that I have community. And then I go out into the world and I engage in community IRL in a way that we're really lucky to be able to do now. And for a long time, I wasn't able to. And so for a long time, that kind of thriving existed through my art practice online during the quarantine, and finding ways to reimagine and recycle my art and my archived pieces. and create new work from things that had already existed and kind of be sustainable in that way as well. So for me, thriving is existing in community in whatever way that is possible, whether it's a phone call in the morning, whether it's taking the train to see my best friend, or seeing my best friend who lives with me, and just talking about art, creating art, and cooking together, and sharing that space. Or even for me, really just sitting down every day to do my makeup to go out into the world is like a nice 40 minutes that I get to have to myself, and 40 minutes that I get to look into the mirror and really sit with myself and reaffirm myself, not only in my inner beauty, but my strength and the power that I have, which is something that I really love. So for me, my thriving is like quality time, but that is different for everybody. But essentially what thriving is finding the tools, the resources, the community necessary in order for you to simply exist.
I love that. I appreciate that you keep it at 100 and naming things as they are and telling the truth, and that a part of your rituals include breakfast, which is incredibly important to feed your soul, as well as community, right, and conversation and cooking. And I support everyone finding parts, things that give them joy and incorporating them as a part of their rituals as well. You are among the most thoughtful and fiercest advocates I've encountered. I am honored that you accepted the invitation to serve as our inaugural Monica Roberts Fellow. And a part of our work includes Give Them Flowers, as well as the Stolen Lives Initiative. And each of these initiatives celebrate the contributions made by Black, trans, non-binary, non-conforming members of our community, and advocating for an end to fatalistic violence against these members of our community, respectively. You referenced some of that in your first response. How do you, acknowledging both the unique contributions that you yourself and other members of our beautifully diverse community make to the world, as well as the challenges you and them face, how do you respond to the question, what does care for Black trans, specifically Black trans women and girls, look like?
It is a loaded question. It is as easy to answer as it is difficult. And unfortunately, the violence that has become unfortunately inherent in the existence as being a Black trans woman, I'm harshly familiar with, as are my sisters. And it's not something that we are able to, in many instances, separate from the larger conversation of our existence as trans folks, right? But in that sisterhood, in that experience of harm, in that witness of harm, we lose too many members of our communities weekly. Even names that don't make it farther than Facebook posts. It's hard to take that every day. It's hard to not be lost in what feels like the constant nonstop attack on our lives and existences. But within that, those of us who are lucky enough to remain here find a community with each other. And we understand what the needs are in our communities. And so we begin organizations like For the Girls. We begin organizations like Black Trans Travel Fund. We begin organizations like the Okra Project in order to invest in the lives and in the safety of Black trans femmes, Black trans folks. And I get this question all of the time, what does safety, not only safety look like, but what does care, what do Black trans folks need? And the answer will always come down to communal resources and communal voice, right? Too often, the idea of Black trans care is left to self-care. And the idea, right, of thriving is not one that can be done without mutual aid, is not one that can be done without legislative reform, is not one that can be done without ally voices coming to the stand to support legislative protections, but also to change the cultures within our communities that allow space for, that encourage, that protect violence against us. And so, although my answer to how do I thrive is that I wake up and I get breakfast, right? That's also that I'm waking up and I'm getting breakfast in an apartment in which I have received financial support from a Black femme-run foundation in order to secure my rent, in order to afford my hormones. And so what care looks like is, of course, showing up on socials, but it goes so much farther beyond that, in actually making sure that the physical, that the financial, that the fiscal contributions are being made to our community in order to fund organizations like NBJC and like For the Girls and so many of these countless organizations that are doing the real grassroots work. And so what care looks like is mutual aid. It is sponsoring rides home. It is making sure that on that train platform and in that line to get into that bar, that your eyes are not only peeled, but that your body is ready to engage in protecting Black trans life. So I would say that's what care looks like for me, but also within our own community, care is that sisterhood that I spoke of. Care is the ability to call my sister, to call upon her, but also to just call her and share my experience of what I've gone through that day, what I've gone through in that moment, what I've gone through in a moment of harm and violence that was not recognized by anybody else in that specific space as harm and violence, as is often the case. Just so funny, I was taking the train the other day and I actually tripped on kind of coming into the turnstile. And there I was on a train platform full of white people, and the only other Black femme person was my best friend. And when I tripped, there was a white woman standing on the other side of the turnstile, and she looked at me with this disgust on her face, which was so far beyond me. Like, I didn't understand how me tripping on this turnstile like had absolutely anything to do with anything at all, right? But her husband had the same face. She kind of walked away like she was trying to look for somebody in the station to say something to. And even though this was not violence in the way that it's understood, or in physical ways that I have experienced something that has been so much more harmful, it was a moment where I had nobody else in that space that could affirm the way in which that was just so awful and terrible of her and so weird. Except this Black femme, this Black woman that is my best friend. And like this moment where we just looked into each other's eyes and I felt heard and I felt seen and I felt cared for, because I didn't know what she wanted. I didn't know what she wanted to do. I didn't know what her end game was there, but I knew that I was seen and I was understood by at least one person. And something that's so hard moving through the world as a Black trans woman is all of the microaggressions, all of the small harms, all of the small violences that go not only unnoticed, but that people refuse to hear. And so that is what care looks like for me, specifically from my sisters, is this willingness to hear my pain, that often I'm denied that from so many other people. And it's something that I dealt with growing up. It's something that I unfortunately dealt with in schools and in college and in the world every day. But it's something that I know that I am free from and I'm protected from when I'm in community with my sisters. And that is when I ultimately, truly feel cared for.
I hear specifically the invitation, or maybe what feels more like a beseechment to sisters, SISTAS in particular, to affirm you and acknowledge that so many of us, if not all of us, exist in the world wanting to know, really longing to know that people see us and they value us because of how we show up, not in spite of how we show up. And one of the things that I struggle with is understanding that the National Black Justice Coalition exists to end racism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, right? All of the things related to how ignorance, stigma, bias, and hatred prevent us from thriving. And so I guess what I'm wondering is for folks who are concerned about mental health and well-being, or who otherwise celebrate humanity but may not ever have the chance to encounter you, what's the one thing you would want from them for the girls and or for Black queer folks more generally?
For the girls, for the dolls, for the Ken dolls, for our non-binary siblings, I just want humanity back. I think that humanity is something that we are robbed of so often. And it is that robbing of our humanity that allows violence against us to be perpetrated in the ways that it is. There is this rhetoric, there's this dynamic that exists amongst people who harm trans people physically, sexually, politically, financially, that is only done because they do not see our humanity, right? They see, they choose to see our transness in many ways, from an act of deception to one of deviance. And through that, we are robbed of our humanity. And so violence against us is accepted and encouraged and legislated. And somehow us simply showing up as ourselves becomes something that is so political. And something that becomes a partisan issue, and something that becomes a religious issue, and something that becomes everything else but a human rights issue. Everything else but a human issue. And I think that it leads to the things that we see when we don't see our sisters having the financial support that they need, when we don't see our sisters having the housing that we so desperately need, when we see our sisters being beaten on streets and in gas stations because they are trans, because our humanity is erased and is taken from us. And so I ask that people treat us with intimate care, intimate respect, and recognize us as the beautiful, caring sisters, daughters, brothers, siblings that we are.
Honoring that, one of the things that I'm really proud of in my leadership of MBJC is our participation with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman and the collective efforts to produce a report titled Ring the Alarm, which really was an attempt to sound the alarm that young people have been ringing for quite some time about the mental challenges that they face and the need for support. And so honoring that and the ways in which the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation is an integral partner in helping to fill that gap. We at present have a partnership that ensures that our babies, Black, queer, trans, and non-binary young people have access to competent and qualified mental health support. But what do you say, Sage, to the babies, to the Black, queer, trans, non-binary, questioning children who are attempting to make sense of being themselves in a world that they didn't ask to be born into, and who sometimes questions and or challenges them?
That is try not to cry my eyelashes off, actually, because to name the fact that we didn't ask to be born into this world, and we just come out and we try to figure it out, and we try so hard just to show up and to survive and to last. And what I want to tell them is that they are loved, that I love them, that they are beautiful, and that they are perfect the way that they are. And we are doing everything that we can to create a world in which we are able to simply be and simply exist, and that you will find that community. I felt my life change the day that I attended that summit and the day that I met you. And I hope to be able to create as many of those moments for the babies that are coming after me. And I want them to know that they are perfect, that they are beautiful, that they are deserving of protection and love, and that they will find that. You will find that. And I know that it is so hard to wake up every morning and try to get through that day, but keep doing it. And it's not easy, and it should never be this hard. But you will find your tribe, you will find your people, you will find those who love you and who will protect you. And I will forever be one of those people. That's what I want to tell the babies.
I love that. I love you, and I want you to know that you don't have to hope. You don't have to do another thing in your lifetime, friend, and you will have already made so many significant contributions to ensuring that our babies and the big babies can show up in the world just as they are. So
the big babies.
The big babies, that part. My last question acknowledges that a key goal of the Symposium and Joy Awards celebration is illuminating the path to joy. Honoring the intentions around joy, will you share what keeps you going? I'm curious, who or what do you turn to for inspiration and for energy to continue along in the ways in which you do?
I turn to love, and I turn to love in all of the ways that I am so lucky to have it show up in my life. And I turn to my friends, and I am so lucky to be surrounded by so many people who love me fiercely and tenderly and softly and peacefully and easily. I think that too often we confuse passionate love with a love that is difficult, with a love that is hard, with a love that must be fought for. And I am so lucky to be blessed with easy love. Love that is as deep, that is as rich, that is as passionate, but that does not come with so many of the hardships and the fight and the difficulty that I was taught that love comes with. And I turn to my book, All About Love, and I read it. And so I turn to my friendship, I turn to my sisters, I turn to my siblings, and they recharge me. And I turn inwards as well, because everything that they feed me and fuel me with, I am so proud of them, of myself. And yeah, I turn to love. I turn to love in all the ways that it shows up.
I love that, with a capital L. For those who missed the reference, the book All About Love was written by our now ancestor, Bell Hooks, lowercase b, lowercase h. And what I celebrate about that are at least two things. One is, I know people are tired. They're like, it's too many letters in the alphabet soup. But I insist on people appreciating that I don't use gay. In part because words matter, and when people hear gay, they think deviance, they might think sex, they might think HIV, but seldom do they think about love. It's one of the reasons why I center and insist on people honoring same-gender loving for that very reason. And I also smile with my whole body knowing that Uncle Jimmy, James Baldwin, and Toni Morrison had a series of conversations in Paris that I turn to quite frequently. And there's a lot of things that they disagree upon, and they should, right, given the breadth of our human experiences. But the answer that they continue to come back to when asking the question of, like, what's the solution to the challenges that we face as marginalized, oppressed, and beautiful and brilliant Black people, the answer that they continue to come back to is love. And so I celebrate that you turn to love. I appreciate the love that exists in the operation of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which exists to ensure that we are loved completely, wholly, and at the center have wellness and all of the things we need to be as fit mentally as we might otherwise be physically. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone for allowing us to have this fireside chat. And thank you to you, Sage, for being a brilliant and bright race warrior who does amazing and extraordinary things.
So glad that we get to continue having these conversations.
That's right.
Dr. Kevin Washington, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share in this moment.
Absolutely. Dr. Washington, we are here to talk about cultural competency. And before we get started, I would love for you to share with the people just a little bit of your background, where you're from, how you came into the mental health space.
Well, I mean, the short story is, of course, I came from a man and a woman. I think that's the obvious one. Shreveport, Louisiana is where I was born. I did my undergraduate work at Grambling State University. And it was there that I began to take a keen interest in psychology. But it wasn't until I went to Texas A&M to pursue my PhD in counseling psychology that I recognized something about culture in the context of mental health service delivery. And so I began to talk about this in graduate school, and I noticed at some level there will be a pushback from some, and then there will be acceptance from others. The movement was just taking off at the time. And my father, who also was a counselor, was not necessarily high on this idea of seeing culture in the context of mental health service delivery, which is very hurting for me because it's like, I'm thinking as a Black man, you would catch this, you would get it. It wasn't until about 2 years later, after I was really talking about it and pursuing it, that I began to see the importance of race and culture in the context of mental health service delivery. So this has been something that I've been working on for a number of years, this idea of understanding how to heal a population that has encountered a unique set of challenges, as well as the new experiences of what we call the Ma'afa, or the great suffering of African people.
You talk about knowing culture is to know elements of one's mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the idea of culture is to understand that if you look at in biology, a culture dish provides for an organism all it needs to grow and sustain itself. And so the same thing then with the culture that one lives in. It provides one of the ethos, their values, their mores, their folkways, how to function, how to be, what to eat, what to dress, how to dress right. Those things are essential to one's being. When you understand the idea of the values, what is held high in regard as to how we conduct ourselves. If you understand the idea of what do we look, what do we project in the world, and these idea of the ethos or the values come out of experiences as well as they inform the experiences that we encounter. And so culture is essential to understanding how humans function. And too often in the behavioral sciences, people begin to disavow the notion of culture and assume that there is this monolithic aspect of culture, that everyone is under the umbrella of a European model. But in reality, there are things that happen that influence culture. And so with that, Tracie, I would say that worldview informs a lot of what we do.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes Black folk think that we don't have different cultural perspectives, like we're one big community. Can we talk a little bit about how the different experiences that are happening in different regions of the world in Black communities, different cities, different, homes even, can affect your perspective on culture?
So when we talk about the Black community, what we also call the African community within the American context, there are a variety of experiences that we encounter. There are a variety of ways of actually responding in the world. There is this overarching process that we have to acknowledge at all times. That is the experience of what some call racism, some call white terrorism. All these things are always impacting how we function to various degrees. So there are these differences that pertain to when you came into the country. How did you come into this country? Did you come in as an immigrant, or were you forced in here as forced labor? Right? How did you grow up? Were you growing up in the South, in the United States, or in the North? What kind of values did you learn from that? But there are these core values, and that they're these central experiences that one can forever experience in America. One is, of course, the dynamic of racism and oppression. the idea, secondly, of being dehumanized or devalued as a person of African descent. That is a global phenomenon. And how one responds to that is the thing that is very critical to recognize. And that's where culture begins to provide you with a way to respond. And when a group has been indeed, of course, traumatized for a period of time, people begin to, and the acculturation level, it begins to inform how one begins to address the challenges of racism and oppression within this space.
So when we're talking about, therapists, counselors, et cetera, you have clients, you are a white practitioner. What would be some guidance towards how to sort of welcome Black folk into that space? What's some of the work that they have to do before somebody shows up that is a person of color?
There are certain things that non-Black therapists, white therapists should be aware of. That is the influence or the impact of what some call white privilege, or being the advantaged population within a given space. So there are a variety of factors or dynamics that a population encounters that makes them favored in a space. They have certain privileges over another group. And so as a result, it becomes easy to miss some of the nuanced aspects of a particular cultural behavior, because the question becomes, why can't you just do it? Just go out and just do it. I mean, it's easy. Just go work hard and you can be successful. Well, in reality, if you're working in the context of a system, a racism and systemic racism and oppression, then it becomes really difficult to work through that, which then frustrates a person and frustrates relationships, and then begins to inform the group as to how to tell a child growing up how to navigate the environment. So there's certain narratives that come out of the Black experience. You got to work twice as hard to get half as much, right? And so these things are an experience aspect of understanding how racism is always ever present, right? And so we have to know then how to help other therapists understand that there's some things that you won't understand. And that's a whole resignation piece. There's some things that you must be willing to embrace. That is, that there are things that are occurring to a population.
Or even willing to ask questions about. I think sometimes what happens is that when folk who are, when white folk are in a room with a Black client, that perhaps they're thinking, I better not go into these waters because I don't know it or I don't understand it. But is it okay to ask questions?
Right. So if one is asking a question from the point of wanting to know, right, wanting to understand, or this idea of feeling, a client feels that they're being authentic in their exploration and not being a voyeur, right? That is imperative. Being a voyeur comes with a level of valuation. It is that I come from this superior position, so I'm coming to you more like a parent to a child rather than a human to human, having a discourse about the context of how you function and how you can become better.
Right.
Too often, European ideology operates from this issue of paternalism, and also this idea that I know all about you because I've been with you. I grew up. My best friend is from Chicago, from the South Side. So I've been to Africa Peace Corps, so I know all about you. But you don't know about my experiences. You don't know what's in, of course, like I said, you don't know what's in my case. And so it's imperative to understand that there's certain experiences that people encounter. So we have to be able to embrace one another, right? I think white therapists should be able to be aware of certain things. That is, racism in this country is real. Enslavement in this country is real. The value of the dynamic that created enslavement is predicated on an ideology, a philosophy of white superiority. Those things influence how people operate and function within this given space every single day.
Right.
And as a result, that influences how I show up in therapy. So it's important to catch this, right? There is no training program that I've been in that really informed me as to how to work with African Americans. No program has taught me how to work with Mexican Americans, how to work with Cuban Americans, how to work with Japanese Americans. There's no program, it talks about those as a group of diverse populations, talk about the issue of some variations in parent-child interactions or elders and the young people, but not as to how to understand the unique experiences of those populations and how they show up in therapy. That being said, as a Black man, I did not learn how to engage in the best skills. I engaged in translating what I was learning from my Eurocentric programs into something that would be workable with my population. As a matter of fact, I was in graduate school in class, and I remember saying that would work with people like me. And they said, what? I said that I can't go into therapy saying, well, how does it make you feel? Because I'm saying they're showing up in therapy trying to figure out, well, I came to you to get some answers. So why are you asking me something to make me feel? And so we have to take a different approach to therapy. So we spend a lot of time, Tracie, translating this particular Eurocentric way of being, doing the work, to making it applicable to our population on a variety of levels. And so that's imperative for us to recognize that we do have a way of being, we do have an understanding, and we do not have to parrot someone else. With that being said, I remember watching myself, my early therapy days in graduate school, and I was imitating. I remember I was parroting very well. Europeans, I wanted to get through the program, so I figured these were the skills that I needed. So I'm imitating someone so well. I'm using their same techniques, but Tom, right? I was doing all of this stuff, and I watched myself like, bro, who are you for real, right? Are you going to be effective in doing the work with people like us? And I recognize that I have to remain true. And so for us to learn about cultural competence means that it is a moment of affirmation to say that there is a distinct way of seeing and being in the world. There are a unique set of experiences. And so we can affirm that, strengthen those, and bring those to the forefront to be more effective as healers.
Yeah, bring you into the room. And that's what I love about seeing some of these young therapists that are coming up in the space, psychologists, psychiatrists, they are being authentically themselves now. They're not thinking they have to walk into a room with a white coat on and all the things. They go play basketball, with their clients, or, they have these non-traditional settings, but our traditions for us, we play basketball. And that's not to say something bad about that. We're good at it. So that's what we do. So let's do that, or however, these new spaces where we're arriving to have these moments of exchange, I think is really speaking to cultural competence. You understand that this person may open up a little more if they feel comfortable that the environment reminds them of who they are. They don't have to leave that behind.
Right. So when you mentioned that, the idea of authenticity comes into play, right? Are you authentic? Are you someone that I can feel, that I can experience? And so for us to be able to open up in general as a population, and I've seen it over and over and over again, even with me, I come in with my degree. Yeah, I see you, Doc, but I'm not necessarily feeling you until I can feel you. And so the reality is that
feeling you feel like, get into that.
Exactly right. So the way that they feel me is by, are you doing what I'm doing? Are you in the spaces where I am? Are you engaging? So I observe how you function and move. That's a worldview phenomenon. Is that among the Dogon, they say that word has word from face value, from the front, the side, the back, and the clear word. And so if you listen to our population, we talk about, I hear you talking. That means that I got to see what you're really about. Right.
Right. We know what that means. I hear you talking.
You're exactly right. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
And so we have to recognize then that when we show up as therapists, what is often considered to be unethical dual relationships within the Eurocentric perspective, it is the way of doing business for us. Right?
Wow.
So they will see us in church. We were there in the temple, the mosque, the synagogue. We're walking down the street. That's Dr. Tracie Jenkins right there. Who is she? Oh, that's who she is. Well, let me look at her for a little bit. All right. So Doc, come holler at me for a minute. I want to ask you a question about something. We're being tested and we're in the same community, right? We're in the same schools, but that is how we begin to get the work done. In our Western space, it's considered to be, well, that's a dual relationship and you cannot engage in that process of therapy because you know that person in several locations at one time. It's the way the work gets done.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to navigate through those to say that I am who I am. I am a therapist. I do this work with you. You see me in this space. When I do this work over here, this is how I have to get it done. And when people trust you, right? When they know that they can feel you, they allow you to do what you need to do, right?
Yeah. And I can remember being an educator, and I still am an educator. And my students, high school students, would call me Mama Tracie. And these students are now in their mid-30s and above, and they still call me Mama Tracie. And I think it's because I got rid of miss this or miss that. No, thank you. I am here and I will stand in this space. I'm never going to be your mama, but I can certainly give you the nurturing of a mother in these 8 hours that we spend together. And so that's building that trust. That's building, some who are lacking maybe that energy from their homes. Build that.
Right. So can I share this right here? I want to share this, right? So the idea in some populations, right, in the Western world view, materialism is the highest order of the day. What you own, therefore the idea of your title becomes essential. That's critical. For other populations, especially when you talk about worldview, optimal worldview, as presented by Dr. Linda James Myers, it's the idea of which I can experience you, I can feel you, right? It doesn't matter what you do, as in your occupation, it's how you be, how you function. Your beingness is essential. So when you talk about them calling you mama, it was not the issue of you saying you will call me mother because that's who I am in your life. No. It was how you be in the world, right? The idea
and
of how
you too, because guess what? Everybody didn't feel comfortable calling me Mama Tracie.
Exactly.
I had some people now and again calling me Miss Jenkins, and then maybe a year or two later, I can call you Mom.
Right. Be.
But
you need to know how you be in the world, right?
What would you say is sort of the key element? And it's going to be different for everybody. But what would you say is the key element that is missing when it comes to the practice today around serving the Black community?
I would suggest that there is a lack of appreciation for the unique experiences of a Black population. That is, appreciation of the experiences that have been encountered through, we know about chattel slavery, the Ma'afa, the great suffering of African people. We know the experiences through which one has encountered oppression and racism, Jim Crow laws, Black codes. There's a lack of appreciation for that and how they will influence and or impact how people function today. The second thing is that there's a lack of valuing a unique way of being in the world. Our way of being in the world can be valued to the extent that somebody can profiteer off of it, or it's some way to be exploited. So we will value the way the music is played, but no recognition that the music that we consider to be soul music comes from an experience, or jazz is an African expression within the American context, right? So we have to value a population.
The way music was used, to help us get to our freedom. That we use music to communicate through some very traumatic experiences that are still living in our blood today. Yet people are profiting off of this evolution of our music, but not even giving any kind of sort of acknowledgement of where of the root of. I'm so grateful for you, Dr. Washington. And anybody who's out there watching right now, you can find Dr. Washington in a fuller thought through our cultural competency training program, which you can find on our website, www.borislawrencehensonfoundation.org. It's always a pleasure, my brother. I learned so much from you every day. I'm glad you are a friend of my life. And I can call on you whenever I get a little confused about how to express this thing. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate everything that you're doing. I appreciate the foundation for bringing forward this particular process to elevate consciousness about how we should function, how we function, and how we do the work better. Your work is tremendous. It's a lift, and people often begin to assume that because you carry it so well that it's not heavy. The reality is that the lift is real. This process is needed. And so you are indeed of value. Tracie is a tremendous angel to so many, and you just really don't know the impact of your work until you move in the trenches and you hear the conversations. And I've heard the conversations about, yeah, I like what they're doing. So I'm saying, yes, I love what you're doing. Thank you so much.
It takes a village. Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care and remember joy over everything.
Welcome back. Did you enjoy the chats? If there's something that you wanted to see, but you missed it because you were in another room, no worries. All of the content will be made available shortly after the show here in Hopin, or visit the Boris L. Henson Foundation website, again at borislhensonfoundation.org. Now we'll take a quick moment to network. If you choose this option, just hit networking on the left side of your screen and follow the prompts. We encourage you to connect with someone in the healing space that you don't already know. So you can also exchange information if you'd like. You can also check out our exhibit booths. They are full of resources and information, and they are open and available for you to visit right now. We'll be back with our men's panel, Warriors of the Light, and we're going to announce our 10 recipients of the Joy Awards. So come on back here in a few.
Peace, everybody. It's Corey Hawkins. Just wanted to say happy Black Mental Health Professionals Day and let you all know that you are seen, you're heard, and you're most importantly felt, especially in our community. We appreciate everything you've done for us over the past few years. It's been a hard couple years, 3 years, but we want to say thank you to our yogis, our clinicians, our healers, our Black therapists. We see you. Thank you for lifting our community up. And today we lift you up. Enjoy over everything. Peace.
Welcoming our Warriors of the Light panelists, moderated by Tracie P. Henson, founder of BLHF. Introducing Jay Barnett, author, speaker, and licensed therapist. Julius Thomas, co-founder of Neurostrength Training Solutions and founder of Mastery Development. Jason Wilson, therapist, founder, and president of CATTA, and Kyaien Gaines, licensed therapist and digital creator. Now, Tracie is on location joining us from The Color Purple. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Can We Talk, the Joy Awards. I wanted to moderate this conversation because, as everyone knows by now, I have a very special place in my heart for the brothers. I watched my father deal with his mental health struggles as a Black vet, countless friends, and loved ones who face oppressive systems, social injustice, health disparities, you name it. Seeing the number of Black boys and men die from senseless murders, substance abuse, and now the rise of suicide is heartbreaking. It's one of the reasons I started this foundation. We are losing our men.
So I'm a former pro athlete. What I discovered in therapy was really, it was life-changing, which kind of led me into the space of mentoring. And then I decided to go back to grad school and to become a therapist.
I played 7 years in the NFL, and one thing I learned early on is there's no amount of money, there's no amount of fame, status that's going to help you be whole inside.
One thing led to another. I ended up sharing what I think on social media, became an influencer, and now I take these large concepts, these large therapeutic concepts, with all these big words that sometimes people don't understand and don't really care about, and I just get people straight to the why and the how. Why you do this, and how it affects you, and how you can do things differently.
I didn't start my mental health journey until I started trying to help Black boys become comprehensive men. I quickly realized that they didn't need more discipline, but they needed more love.
God bless each and every one of you for organically finding this lane, because your voices, so needed. Jay, we see you on podcasts and Instagram live, and you have clients, speaking engagements, all the things. You are certainly busy out there. I read that your book, Just Heal, Grow, addresses how men live and die in the silence of their emotions. They learn to invalidate themselves for the sake of others. Can you talk about your own experiences with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a house after my parents divorced. I grew up around, my mom had 12 sisters, and then I have 3 sisters. And so I grew up in a house with a lot of estrogen. And I had learned early on how to be silent and to have this sort of, had this understanding that, what I felt and what I thought, wouldn't be heard, wouldn't be recognized, and definitely, wouldn't be considered. And I think most boys that grow up in single parent homes that are led by mothers, and I don't think this is anything that is done intentionally. I think something just by default, because I think naturally you begin to consider your mom, your sisters, and the women around you, and you start very early on from a performative mindset. And that's where I began. And so when I was penning Just Heal, Bro, I remember college is kind of where I kind of learned how to journal. In one of my English courses, a teacher challenged us to kind of write about our thoughts. And I found it to be very strange because I said, no one has never asked me how I felt, in all of my years of living. And here I am, a freshman in college, and this lady's asking me, to tell me, what are you thinking? What do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know. And what I discovered in journaling is that I was able to discover that I had a voice and that my voice mattered. And that's what I wanted to really echo to the men that will pick up Just Heal, Bro, because I was that boy who suffered a lot in silence, and my silence, drove me to 2 suicide attempts. And for that reason, I think it's so important, because I truly believe that the man who finds his voice is a man that finds his way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jason, you've been working with our young men for some time now, like decades of work. And what are some of the trends and behaviors you think have changed with this new generation of young Black men? And what has remained the same?
What's interesting, I don't really, see too much that has changed since I started in 2006, except that, I see it have changed for the better. Honestly, I was just communicating with Brother Jay, because a lot of boys now that I work with and come across, as soon as you give them the door to open up their emotions, they're all in. And I've noticed that from my generation, I say previous to 2006, I was in high school in the 80s. It was unheard of to cry in front of anyone. It was unheard of to say you were scared, or that you're sad. And so nowadays, with men like who are here right now, with Kier, and Jay and Brother Julius, our voices are giving men the courage to step out, and boys as well, to step out of their comfort zones and finally to decide that, I'm more than just a masculine male. I was created to be a comprehensive man. And so that's what I'm seeing more so of, nothing that's really negative, but that boys are desiring an opportunity to really express what they're feeling, because they see the direct results of suppressing their emotions and getting in fights at school, poor grades, and being disobedient to their parents, all because they feel that they, have to put up a front or wear a mask, the mask of masculinity, when all of us were created to be more than masculine.
And how has this work changed you over the years?
Interesting. I grew up without my father and struggled many years with the father wound. And one of my pastors told me, he says, you're going to find your healing in helping boys. And I tell you, it's helped me heal so many areas, because I literally gave them what I longed for. So when I see a young boy with the same eyes I had, longing for a man that they can trust, and I can fulfill that in their lives, it actually brings closure to all the areas of my heart where my father, unknowingly hurt me really bad. And so that's the blessing of being able to serve boys, to be able to pour out in them and then see my fruit, the fruit of my labor while I'm living, just continues to heal me and make me whole.
That is absolutely beautiful. That's beautiful. Julius, you work in, your work is in brain health. You retired from football, and now you are founder of Nestra. Am I saying that right?
It's Nestry, but you're close.
Nestry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Tell us a little about that and what you've discovered in your work that may be a benefit to practitioners out there.
No, absolutely. Shortly after I retired, I got introduced to this concept called neuroplasticity. I kind of had a look on my face like, well, what's neuroplasticity? And to save everybody the science, it's essentially just understanding that the brain can change. The brain can change in a positive direction, or the brain can change in a negative direction. And that change is really predicated on what we're doing, how we're living, and the type of experiences we're having. So with Nestry and understanding that there's this neuroplasticity and there's thousands of research articles in neuroscience coming out all the time, the founder and I, we thought, well, who's doing something with this information? It's one thing to do research and then, put it on a bookshelf, but we wanted to really take this research and apply it. So we applied it in ways to create brain solutions for people suffering from cognitive problems. So this could be a person that has dealt with a lot of concussions, or this can be a person that says, you know what, I want to take my mental performance to the next level. So we have a technology that's really based on data, machine learning, and applying neuroscience. And what we do is we start to train functional networks in the brain. And it's a pretty complicated type of science, but we're starting to learn more and more about how what's happening in the brain is affecting our mood, it's affecting our behavior, it's affecting our memory, processing. You nailed the gamut, what happens in the brain. And we really wanted to give people something that they can do to be able to leverage technology and science to be able to have better cognitive function.
And like you said, information is out there, but people aren't going to seek it if they don't know. So God bless you. Kier, my brother from DC. When is the last time you had some chicken and mumbo sauce?
What you talking about? Maybe about 3 days ago.
Can you
know what's up.
Please just ship me some, please.
I got you. I'm gonna get you the good mumbo sauce from Minnesota and Benton.
Yes, please do. Please do. Look, you are now a father of 2. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. You speak a lot about family and childhood trauma in your work. That's actually how I discovered you on Instagram. You were talking about men and relationships and men being in relationships, and you blew my mind, and I hit that follow button right away. Anyway, growing up in DC, once known as the murder capital of the nation, how would you say your environment impacted your mental health?
Man, Jennifer Lewis has this really good quote. I don't know what type of language I could use here, so I'll be good. But she says, if you sit in sugar honey iced tea for long enough, it starts not to stink. And that doesn't just go for that. It goes for, to Jason's point, it goes to fear and sadness as well. If you sit in those feelings for long enough, they're no longer feelings. They become what we call your baseline or your norm. And when people are desperate, that leads to violent collisions, especially when you're a little Black boy. And I spent so much time being afraid and not being able to confront fear because there's no room to be afraid. There's no room to be sad. You have to be in defense and protective mode of yourself. And I think the popular thought is that even though that little boy went through that, when he becomes a man, he has a beautiful family and a nice house and a different life, that mindset leaves him, and it does not. Those shadows stay with you for a very long time. When I first bought my house, I couldn't even sleep in it at night because there was too many doors. That was the first time I've ever lived in a house, and there was so many doors. I'm like, someone's going to break in and hurt us. That was my baseline for a long time. And man, it affects your relationships. It affects the way that you talk to yourself. It affects the way that you interact with other people. When you work in a corporate environment and you walk into a room and you feel automatically defensive, that's the way you've protected yourself for so long. And until I started seeking therapy for myself and going on my own therapy journey, even in grad school, because you learn a lot about yourself when you're becoming a therapist. That wasn't where I didn't realize those things until then. And I'm thankful for the wisdom and the 1,000-mile view now, but you have to heal from that journey. It even when you do better, even when you get the thing that you always wanted, you still have to do some work to heal from the process of acquiring that thing. So it's been really rough, but I'm thankful to have the internal voice to lend the adult me space to thrive and be a wholesome individual.
Yeah. How do you protect your own space for healing?
I realized that it's okay to change my mind when I get new information. It's okay for me to change my behavior and my likes. It's okay to grow, and it's okay to let go of the person that you always thought that you would be to make room for the person that you're actually becoming.
Right. I just remember when I hit that follow button, it just came back to me listening to you speak. You said relationships, your wife and your kids, they're not like oatmeal. You just can't throw water on them and pop them in the microwave.
Yeah, yeah.
Take time and nurturing and understanding. You got to know when to turn the heat up and down. Like that to me was prolific.
Yeah, you got to know yourself to do that, though, Tracie. You have to know what's going on in here and here.
This question is for everyone, all of you. I'm sure it's difficult to manage your own self-care while supporting others. So how do you find time to love up on yourselves? Give us a peek into your own self-care practices.
So I'll start off with this one. I think for me, what's been critical, and I say this often when I'm doing talks around other clinicians and when I'm speaking to people who are in the field of mental health or social work, or just when you're in the people business, I think it's important for us to understand that you have to give yourself permission to set boundaries. You also have to give yourself permission to decompress and to debrief. One of the things for me, I start off, working out in the morning, fasted, and then I come back and I eat breakfast, and I usually see a couple of clients if I'm not on the road. But what has been a game changer for me is having a trainer and having a therapist. And I'm an advocate for every therapist to have a therapist because, again, as you're helping others go through their process, who's helping you work through your process? And so I think that's very important. But the one thing that my trainer has allowed me to do is he's allowed me to enter into a space where I don't have to think. Because most of the times when we enter into the clinical space, right, you're having to process, you're having to conceptualize, you're having to reframe, and you're having to do a lot of moving around because really in the therapeutic space, the therapist is just guiding the client, right? We're just a GPS and the client is the driver. And so being able to make sure that I'm getting an adequate enough rest, I tell people, listen, at 9 o'clock, this phone is on silent. I'm not taking no calls, and I don't care if it's fire, flood, or blood. Don't call me, whatever it is. You can wait till in the morning because I need to be able to rest. Because when you're doing this intake work, and as we all have experienced that we've come out of a pandemic, but also we enter into this epidemic that I feel of Black men, wanting to enter into seeking help. But then again, the solutions does not match the demand. So every Black clinician I know, male or female, is, overworked. And so it's been important and been critical to make sure that I have a routine and be able to make sure I create space for myself.
I mean, for me, in all transparency, I'm still working on it, Taraji. For 6 to 7 years, I took care of my mother who developed Alzheimer's. She had dementia first and developed Alzheimer's and passed. And so my entire life for those years I dedicated to her, and I have no regrets at all. I would do it all over, and we even give her even more of myself. But like Jade, one thing that I do every night, I make sure I get at least 7.5 hours of sleep. I meditate every morning and every evening, reflecting on what could be bothering me, releasing any toxic thought before it becomes a detrimental action, and then I reset, and then I can rest. I play the guitar at times, the melody just to soothe my soul and to clear my thoughts, because Brother Jay is right, compassion fatigue is real. And if you don't have, make time for yourself just to release what you've taken in from so many people, it will affect you. And I love what Kier talked about, being in the house, how trauma will follow you. I share often I shared in my book, I said, we got to stop allowing trauma to time travel. And that's what happened with me. I couldn't even hold my wife's hand until just recently, because of the way I grew up in Detroit. I've seen men get beat down for holding their wives' hands or girlfriends' hands at that time. So I had to work through all of that trauma. And again, when you take it on as mental health workers, we have to just, again, fight for our own space. It's very difficult because it's a gift and we're called to really reach this population. But if we don't take time for ourselves, we can't help anyone.
That's right. Across the board. That's just even, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a therapist, but just in my own life as a friend, I have to step back and go, whoa, let me take care of me. That's in life.
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good. Absolutely. And I think, just to really frame, what the brothers on this call are talking about, for me, it starts with honesty. Man, it took me so long to admit that I need help, that I need a break, that I can't be impervious to pain, suffering. And through that honesty, it really helped me develop a standard. I used to tell myself, man, you're going to be the best. When I was an athlete, you're going to be the best. And you say it over and over. But then you look in the mirror one day and you realize, like, okay, I'm here physically, I'm here mentally, but I'm here emotionally. And once I realized that where I was emotionally and my emotional intelligence, my ability to be able to feel, talk about what I'm feeling, to be able to honor what I'm feeling, wasn't up to the standard that I set for myself, I realized that work needed to be done. And so for me, a lot of it is just a combination of different things. Mindfulness has been so powerful for me because really the concept of mindfulness, to be able to understand that I'm feeling something. I started off, I didn't know how to have words for what I was feeling. All I knew was I was angry or I was happy. But now I'm able to name my emotions, then be able to sit with it and not just react to it immediately. At first, I was just this is what I'm feeling, I have to do something. But to create that space between stimulus and response, and to really have to sink into that, like everything we've talked about on this call, just all these things that we learn from our neighborhoods, our culture, and feeling like we can't move through it. But then you learn that you have this capacity to sit with feelings you don't love, fear, guilt, shame, anger, grief, all of that. We have space for that as long as we stretch ourselves to be able to go through it. And exercise, can't say it enough, it's been so important for me. Exercise is that space away where you just get to zone out, be in flow. Martial arts, I love doing jiu-jitsu, staying active. It really helps me out through that process. But I would say just, being able to be honest that I got feelings and that I need to work through them is huge. And I think that's a fundamental piece of self-care.
Have you seen a shift or a change for the better?
I can speak on that. I know, Jay, you're on tour. You see it every stop you're at. For me personally, especially on Instagram, when I look at my direct messages and see all of these men just like yearning for an opportunity to break free from emotional incarceration, it confirms that the work that we're doing is really impacting the world. And also what's interesting that, that the voice of a Black man being transparent and showing that he's more than masculine. My definition of a comprehensive man is someone who's courageous, but also compassionate, strong, but sensitive, someone who can freely live from the good in their hearts instead of their fears. And like Brother Jay say, typically when we grow up and we're in this fight or flight, we're really living from our fears.
Right.
The fear of being perceived as pusillanimous, or the fear of being, I remember I was basically embarrassed for admitting I was a virgin one day to my family. And so for these men of different backgrounds all across the world saying, I'm tired of suffering in silence, I'm ready to break free, it confirms that it's catching like a wildfire. But like Jay and I were talking offline, is that it's just, the scriptures say, Yeshua or Jesus said, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So that's what really hurts us the most, is that, we don't want to leave no one left behind, because we know men, we die by suicide 3 times as likely as our women.
Yes.
And just that, a man ignored could be another statistic. And so we've seen it, and that's what keeps me going, is to see that men, they're ready to break free.
Have you seen the difference, Jay, like from the first time you started talking about it to now?
Oh yeah, I've seen a huge difference, and I think one of the things that I've seen more of is in these spaces where these men are coming in, right? You know, there's no women allowed in the tour, and so these brothers feel safe. And I say often that when a man feels safe, he would drop his shield and his sword.
So I spent a long time in education. I worked in schools for students that pretty much got exited out of public schools for whatever reason. And I also worked in special education. So you have students who are on the low socioeconomic side of the world, and you have students that have students with disabilities, which really puts them under in terms of adversity. And what I noticed is little Black boys in special ed, whenever they have big emotions, they get categorized as emotional disturbances. You can look at special education, you can look at the data, it supports it all the way. And it's, for me, I had big emotions when I was a young man, and I didn't feel like I ever had issues with regulating them. I felt like I was rarely understood. And if I wish I had anything or could do anything different, I wish I had the emotional lexicon I have now at 36 years old, to be able to have the people around me, this educational staff, the supportive staff, the community leaders, pick up what I was putting down in the way that I intended it for it to be conveyed. We now live in this trauma-informed world where everyone's listening to things with a different ear, and that's beautiful, but that just happened. A lot of us, our formative years were a long time ago, and we still have to catch up with that. So if anything would be different, I wish I had these words at that time so I could be better understood and better supported.
Jason, what would you say to those who are advocates or working in the mental health space, men or women, who are just burnt out or they just want to walk away from it all? What advice would you share with them?
Interesting. Me and Jay were at Charlemagne's Mental Wealth Expo in October, and so many psychotherapists, psychologists came up to me and just were crying after our panel discussion, saying how they had reached their wits end, how they were just tired and needed a break. And I said, why don't you take one? And they just looked at me like, what do you mean? I said, take a break. I tell my psychotherapist, he's on vacation now for a month. And I tell him, I'm not going to call you. I said, you need to demand that of your clients. Say, apply what I've taught you for this month so I can reset and restore so that when I come back, I can be fully available for you. So that's what I would tell, because, I guess between us, it's not between us because we're on with you, Taraji, so it's the whole world to see this. But I signed with Brother Lawrence Fishburne for a documentary film on my life, working with boys and helping them release their trauma. I say that to say, because I tell everyone who works in mental health, we're going to need you, and it's going to be an influx when this drops this year. And you have to take care of yourself. You have to say, I can't take any calls this week. I'm hurting. I need to see my therapist, like Kyaien said. Or no, that was Jay. And so that's what I tell them all. And I said, if you can't say it legally, I will say it for you. Everyone, we can wear people down, and it's too much. And I even felt guilty texting my psychotherapist because we're friends. I apologize because you're on vacation. And it was something completely, wasn't even related to therapy, but I felt that I was invading his space in his time with his wife. And so not only do they need to just step away, but also encourage their clients, hey, this month I want you to apply what I've taught you all of these years. And then when we come back, we're going to circle back to see how you did.
Wow. That's great. Because, I will say as a patient, we can be lazy sometimes. And sometimes I'm just saying that. And sometimes we just want our hands held and tell us how. And it's not going to work if we don't work it.
Yeah. And that's why, Kira, thankful for brothers like you, who are still in it, engaged, because, you guys take on a lot, man. I have family members, psychiatrists for years, she alcoholic now because she had no one to cast her care. So she's taking on all of our weight. And I said, when do you take a break? I can't, because I have so many people need to see me. Maybe we can make a day just for therapists where we can say, this day, don't call your therapist.
Hey,
thank you.
Just do your work. I gave you the tools there. Make them work. I have a rapid fire question, and then I'm going to let you guys go because I just appreciate your time so much. So in one word or sentence, what would you say Black mental health providers and advocates need most? And how can we work? How can we support you in your work?
I think the word that I would use is visibility. You gotta know where to find each other.
I think my answer may go a little left field, but this is just what came to mind.
I mean, it's gonna be longer than a word or a sentence. I'm joking.
Nah. I'm gonna keep it brief. I know I'm from DC. We real long-winded, but I'm gonna keep it brief. So I'm gonna say cultural competency. And I think the therapists out there will understand. There's this assumption that because we're all Black, we're all the same kind of Black, and that only white therapists need cultural competency. Nah,
that's true.
Cultural competency to know what that person's lived experience is when they come in. See, that was 3 sentences, Taraji, but it wasn't 4 though.
I guess.
Taraji, it was one. You were on the Breakfast Club, and you know I work with boys, and you were talking about how you encourage your son to cry, let it out. You know, that video I shared and taught a class off of to help our boys be able to release what they're feeling inside. And what so many mothers don't understand is that, you know, of course we want, as boys and men, we desire the affirmation from our fathers, but we'll run through a wall for our mothers. And so when they're encouraged to be emotional, you're still a man, you're still a warrior if you're sad. Are you feeling depressed? Why? Let's talk about it. Those things really help me out in a tremendous way because they're just not hearing it from me or just Kira or Jay or Julius. And so to hear it from you, especially with your platform, again, so many people in your position wouldn't do what you're doing right now. So I just truly thank you. And as Jay said, it's beyond commendable. And so just thank you for that.
Oh, don't make me cry. I have on lashes. Thank you so much for allowing me to interrupt your busy schedules and coming here to share with us today. We appreciate your insight. And again, thank you for your services. We love you and appreciate you all. And please take the time you need because we need you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Taraji. This was great. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourselves and each other and stay safe.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, brothers.
Hi, and happy Black Mental Health Professionals Day. I'm Janine Leiber, the Chief Social Impact and Communications Officer at BET, and I am here to say thank you to all of our healers for their love, dedication, hard work, and sacrifice serving our community over these past few very difficult years. And I'm also here to say that we can't wait to fly out and host the top 10 Joy Award recipients the weekend of the BET Awards. That is right, June 24th. We'll be having you for a very, very special dinner, and we just can't wait to see you there. Until then, wishing you joy over everything. See you soon.
Hi, my name is Philip Jones, and it's been an honor to have received this scholarship award. In spring 2020, when I received the award, I was in the process of applying for graduate school. Since then, I was able to get into the School of Social Work at San Francisco State, where I'm now getting a master's in social work. I have been able to use this experience and knowledge to practice therapeutic processes to deliver therapy to clients that are in custody in San Francisco City and County's jails. It has been an honor to serve this population, and understanding the criminal justice system, we know that it is overpopulated with people of color. I have been able to work with this vulnerable population and provide services that have really enhanced their care and their life. I believe that in the future, I will continue to work to benefit our communities, and I am very honored to have been a recipient. Thank you.
Happy Black Mental Health Professionals Day. I just want to show so much love to each and every last one of you who helped me and helped so many. We love you. We sing you peace. We sing you joy. We need you. Thank you.
Do you know what what today is. I can't sing that good, but it is Black Mental Health Professionals Day. I'm Niecy Nash, and I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for helping our community. Thank you for being therapists who look like us. And I know for me, it's necessary. All right? We appreciate you. We love you. We see you. And we wish you joy over everything. Mwah.
Mwah! Yes, right back at each and every one of you. We love you too, and we all need therapy. All right, you guys, as we come to a close this evening, we are ready to announce our 10 Joy Award recipients who will each receive, come on, say it with me, $10,000 to be used towards their joy and well-being. Although I know some of y'all are going to spend it on your clients because that's what we do. As you heard earlier in the program, each will receive a trip to Los Angeles, California, and attend a special dinner sponsored by BET during the BET Awards weekend. I need to go too. These 10 recipients have gone above and beyond to serve the Black community during unprecedented times. We'd like to thank each and every one of you who are here with us tonight for your commitment and your love for our community. Reach out to a therapist, counselor, teacher, yogi, or meditation guide today and just say thank you. It takes a village to serve a nation. And now, let's get on with it. Please help me congratulate our 2022 Joy Award recipients. First, our special Joy Award categories. Mental Health Advocate. Please give a huge congratulations to Dr. Yolanda Lewis Ragland. Dr. Ragland is a physician who developed an integrative medical practice that includes transcendental meditation. She is part of a movement advocating with Congress to get transcendental meditation covered by insurance companies and does this work on a volunteer basis. Throughout the pandemic, she was part of a campaign called Heal the Healers Now, bringing free meditation to medical frontline workers. She was lovingly nominated by her proud daughter, a graduate student completing her own master's degree in public health. Dr. Yolanda Lewis Ragland. Congratulations. Okay, let's keep it moving into our next category, Integrated Health and Wellness Champions. Please congratulate our first winner of the evening, Dr. Kofi Kandwani. Dr. Kandwani has been meditating and teaching for more than 50 years. He began meditation practice as a member of the U.S. Army in Korea in 1972. Thank you for your service, Dr. Kandwani. He is also the founder of CRM, Consciously Resting Meditation, and specializes in mind-body medicine. He was nominated by Miss Virginia Floyd. I give you Dr. Kandwani. Thank you so much. Also, in the category of Integrated Health and Wellness Champions tonight, please congratulate Mr. Melvin McDowell Jr. Nominated by his employees, Melvin created a unique healing space of talk therapy and the arts for Black and Brown communities in Saginaw and Flint, Michigan. He partnered with a school to create a choir and dream team that's become an incredible outlet for middle schoolers. Melvin's practice is now housed in its own 12,000 square feet facility, incorporating innovative intervention and therapy for healing. And of course, our mental health professional category awardees. Our first winner in the category of Mental Health Professional Category awardees is Dr. Patrice Douglas. Recognizing the urgent need for safe spaces for men of color, Dr. Douglas founded a cutting-edge virtual wellness group practice called The Weight Room. This practice encourages comfortable, easy access for Black and Brown men to find healing and mental wellness by changing some of the traditional ways of Western therapy using WEIGHT room technology to help relate to their problems. Congratulations, Dr. Douglas. Our next winner tonight is Dr. Tiana Woolridge. Dr. Woolridge created Embrace the Mind, a school-based mental health program for predominantly African American and Latino communities, spanning 8 inner city schools and over 2,500 students and families in South Los Angeles and Inglewood. All of this while running mental health workshops for sports teams at the high school and collegiate levels in the wake of recent deaths by suicide among young athletes. Congratulations, Dr. Woolridge. Our next award winner this evening is Dr. Carlin Barnes. This double board certified Harvard-trained psychiatrist finds her greatest reward in her spare time, taking her passion for increasing mental health awareness out of the clinic setting and into community, churches, and media platforms. She has been a featured guest and subject matter expert on local and national media platforms, as well as blogs, providing content on relevant mental health topics, particularly during the pandemic. She has continued to work tirelessly on the front lines during the worst of times for so many of us. Thank you, Dr. Barnes. Our next $10,000 award winner this evening is Dr. Tiara Ellis. Dr. Ellis founded Psyches of Color in 2020 and is the executive director of this progressive nonprofit that provides radical healing to at-promise Black and Latino adolescents and young adults so that they may see therapy in a different light beyond traditional methods. She also conducted a pilot clinical trial research study on Black adolescents and young adults called Black and Brown Minds Matter Positive Youth Development Group, leading to great advancements in amplifying youth voices, incorporating a trauma-informed, transformative justice and strength-based approach. Congratulations tonight, Dr. Ellis. Our next award winner is Indira Harris. Indira is the widowed spouse of a Black man who died by suicide just 2 weeks after she was commissioned to active duty and left with a 4-year-old to raise. She knew how important it was to forge on in her work as a commissioned officer with the U.S. Public Health Service. Recognizing the need for individuals serving in our military day in and day out, many of whom are Black and Brown, she developed a program called the Resilience Through Meditation Program, providing live in-person meditation experiences to help active duty federal, civilian staff, and their families. As a result, these meditation sessions are operating at 13 federal agencies in 33 sites across the United States. Thank you for your service, Indira. Our next winner of the evening is Raven Sanders. Raven dedicates herself to low-cost mental health care for Black women and children. She launched a mentoring program called Ray of Hope, designed and catered towards Black girls ages 11 to 15, exploring self-esteem, identity, social-emotional learning, team building, and coping mechanisms, all while providing a safe space that they would not have otherwise. Congratulations, Raven. Our next award recipient and final award winner of $10,000, I cannot say that enough, of $10,000 tonight is Tyra Moore. Tyra is one of the 2 founding members of the social work program for Washington, D.C.'s Children's Law Center, raising the bar for trauma-informed child welfare care and advocacy. Her work on behalf of social workers with the Child and Family Services Agency in D.C. and with behavioral health providers, clinicians, and more across D.C., Maryland, and Virginia have provided life-changing positive outcomes for the children and youth with whom she works. She started her own private therapeutic practice in 2021 while finishing her doctorate in clinical social work, concentrating on ambiguous loss and intergenerational trauma within the foster care system. Kim Dalton is who nominated Tyra this evening. Congratulations to each of you, and thank you so much for your service. And I want to say thank you to each of you tonight, family, for having me as your host. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you continued joy over everything. Back to you, Tyra. Back to you, Taraji and Tracie. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and being a part of this very special moment with us.
We hope that you feel supported and loved in your efforts to bring joy into the lives of so many.
Congratulations to our 10 honorees. We look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you to every one of our mental health providers and advocates all over the world who give your hearts and time every day to lift up the Black community.
Thank you to our sponsors, friends, and BLH staff who put so much time and energy into this work. You rock.
Take care of yourselves and each other, and choose your joy over everything.
Pray, daughter, pray. Remember who you are and who